Hello and welcome to the oNiD Sim Hound LMU 100 series powered by Coach Dave Academy. This is round 4 of the championship here in a very nice and sunny Imola, and well, it's what season it's been so far. This is the midpoint and we've had about 6 different winners between the two classes so far this season, and well, hopefully we can see another 2 new winners here today as well. Joining me in the comms booth as always is Sam Grant. Sam, how are you doing?
I'm very excited. I love Imola. It's my favorite track. I have to say, I'm saying it's my favorite track. I have many favorites, but this is the most. I mean, it's not we get a follow there. Thank you for AC Riches 2024. You know, we have many tracks which are great for racing, many which are great for kind of hot lapping. This is one I think more favoured towards hot lapping. You know, racing is a bit trickier in terms of overtaking, finding the right spot, but it's certainly a great track. Has a combination of challenges, nice flow to it, and we're going to see, I think, throughout the 100-minute race where some of the drivers' strengths are in terms of keeping it on the track, keeping it in track limits, and moving up the order. So yeah, very much looking forward to it as well.
Yeah, it's we see some of our drivers going on to their first qualifying lap. You join us just at the start of this session as we follow one of the Corvettes through the final bend. We're also joined by Johnny Ashley. So Johnny, what are you looking to try and get out of this qualifying session?
Top 5 would be nice. Low 45 race pace. And yeah, I think if I can get into the top 5 in qualifying, I'll stand a good chance in a race.
Okay, well, it's your, we'll leave you to it for the qualifying session, and we'll come back to you sometime during the race as we follow Time Hammer through the first couple of bends on their first flying lap of the session in the 82 Corvette, as well, this was the car that won last time out at Le Mans, late stages of the race, overtaking Bascar, who was, I think, struggling on strategy towards the end. So we'll be hoping for somewhat of a similar result here today with Tyler Hammer, and he does go purple in the first sector, but well, he's probably one of the first cars through that first sector, so we'll have to see if that stands over the rest of this lap as he goes around the left-hander now. And well, Sam, what do you think the key to a good qualifying session is here?
Smoothness, but also, you know, it's you've got to be brave, you've got to be confident. You know, in the race, sure, you have to be mindful of track limits. They've got 15 minutes in qualifying. They can afford to, sure, set a banker lap, but then, you know, really push the track limits, try and carry the momentum, particularly through, you know, those first couple chicanes, and then really hammer this final chicane, which Tyler Hammer seems to have done rather nicely. Aqua Minerale, you know, the middle point in Sector 2, really, it's a tricky complex, but it's one that rewards being brave and carrying as much speed as you can, whilst also keeping it together. So there's a lot of time to be gained, but, you know, similarly, there's a lot of time to be lost if you get it wrong. Tyler Hammer coming around the final corner, a crucial corner, obviously such a long start for this race. Bit of a wobble there on the exit, but at least keeps out of the gravel, and we'll see what time he does. How do you feel about the circuit, Tom? I know I've talked about how much I love it, but is it one where it's just, it's too... it's just a bit awkward, or what do you think?
I don't know. It's one I kind of enjoy but don't enjoy at the same time. It's kind of, I don't come to it too much when I do my racing, but it is a fun circuit. Aqua Minerale, I love that section of the track because it's kind of so technical but high speed at the same time. It requires, well, your full attention most of the time going through there. You have to be kind of right on the limit but not too much over it to get that section of the circuit just right. As we come to Alfie Bevan here, currently is the fastest car on the circuit and does have the fastest time of this session as he gets very twitchy at the rear end there around the final corner and is looking to improve over this lap time. Was purple in both the first and second sectors, so we should see his pole margin improve as he comes across the line. Yes, it does, into the 1 minute 30s, a 1 minute 30.983 to go ahead of Finney in the Toyota by just over a second. And well, Alfie is looking for back-to-back pole positions here. Got a pole at Le Mans last time out and is looking to carry on where they left off, but Aiden Carter doesn't look like they're going to give it up too easily. He's just set a time that's only 0.282 off of Bevans, and well, Carter has the most poles this season after taking pole in the first 2 rounds of the championship, so that is one to keep an eye out on as Elvin Blomqvist comes up across the line. And I think still just outside the... I know it says second on the screen there, so am I waiting for my timing screen to... Oh yeah, there it is. It has updated.
Yep, moved up to second, yep.
Yeah, so just pips car by just less than a tenth.
Indeed, plenty of time to go there, so, you know, sure, get that lap in, as I say, get that bank lap in, sure, get something on the board at a respectable time, and then really start trying to push those boundaries, be slightly later on the brakes where it matters, and, you know, slightly less on the brakes where it matters as well, trying to carry a bit more speed through those chicanes. Some drivers might be having issues with it. It's such a fast section as well, fast sections of the track. You know, something goes wrong, a little twitch on the exit, and suddenly you'll find yourself with a massive snap and in the gravel. So, you know, there isn't really much scope for you know, rescuing some of these funny moments the cars are having. But Alfred Blomqvist going green in Sector 1, yellow in Sector 2, going through the chicane, which is a little bit more forgiving than it is in other sims. So you don't have those massive sausage curbs to contend with, which I'm sure the drivers will enjoy hammering instead. But track limits are still a thing, and you know, you can so easily go over that boundary and pick up enough warnings in the race to get a penalty. Elvin Blomqvist going over that limit into the gravel between the Ravazzas, obviously running his lap there, but at least he did it before the final corner, so he can set himself up for a nice run for the next lap. Nick Mann is also slotting into 5th, by the way.
Yeah, decent lap time in the first Porsche into the top 5 in the field. Finney in 4th currently still, and it's currently a 1-2 Ferrari here, similar to what we saw in real life with them taking pole at this round of the World Endurance Championship. There's Zach Finney, actually, you know, pips himself up into 2nd position, but still over 3 tenths back from Alfie Bevan, who is setting the benchmark time so far in this session. We're waiting for Jacob Pine to set a lap time, I think, so far, as he's currently down in 8th position in the hypercar class in this session. As he comes up towards Aqua Minerale, will ride on board, slams down the gearbox to now start his ascent up the hill towards Varante. Also, as we said, the sausage curb's not really as prevalent in this simulator, so you can bash the curves a lot more as he does. You can see him taking a lot of the curb as he rides across it now. Now we'll start his descent down the hill towards turn 16, towards the Ratza. And we'll have to see what Jacob Hein can do. Jumps onto the brakes now, turns the car into the first part of the Ratza, now goes into the final corner, looking very well set up around here, runs right to the very ragged edge of this rumble strip there, just keeping his tyres out of the gravel as he now comes up towards the start-finish line. Where will this put Jacob Hein? Currently in 9th, and I think actually does stay in 9th.
Indeed, certainly looks that way, but we'll, continue on from the lap. But strong performance with Jacob Hein throughout the series, so I'll be surprised if he doesn't move up the board, that's for sure. Let's have a look back to the GT3 fields. We've got Ralph Vest, who briefly still actually has the purple Sector 2 there in the class, obviously. Green Sector 1, but a ways off the best sector in Sector 1s, but still looking to improve. I'm sure currently resides in 4th. Let's look at his time, 3/10 away for a position gain in class, and obviously 1.5 seconds away from the lead, which is Kising, which again is just so dominant. We have to kind of ignore him in qualifying just because it skews the rest of the times really, and how far away everyone else has to improve. Will come across the line eventually, does Ralph Fest. There we go, moved up to 2nd, so great job. And really, barring Kiesig, is leading the way then for the rest of the field, and a couple tenths away from Jelnik, so a nice little buffer there.
Yeah, a nice little time set by Vest, and actually just under half a second off of Kiesig, so could, if he can clean up the first sector, could potentially find that time, as Matt Townsend, or who else has had pole position so far this season, got it around 1 at Portimao, so we'll have to see if Townsend can improve from the current 9th position they're sitting in the Inception Racing McLaren so far. As we come to you now, Johnny, as you go up to 4th place in class, 1.113 off of the current fastest time in the GT3 part of the field, and the highest of the BMWs so far. We'll come back to Matt Townsend. Currently is green, but is currently half a second off of Kiesig in the first sector. But we have seen drivers being able to pull a good middle sector to get close, but actually it's yellow in the middle sector, 0.189 of their best through that sector, so it's going to all be down to what Matt Townsend can produce in the final sector. Comes into a Ratza now into the first part, takes a lot of that inside curve, rides on the little green patch on the inside of the corner, now runs right to the edge of the circuit as he starts his approach down the start-finish straight. Let's see what Matt Townsend can do here as he comes up across the start-finish line. And it is an improvement at 1 minute 45. That moves them up into 4th position in the field, and that is a decent lap time from Matt Townsend. Is currently just under 2 tenths back from Petr Jelinek as well. So only a small improvement over this next lap could see them improve yet again. Elvin Blomqvist currently in 4th here, as they are currently they're green in the first sector, only just under 2 tenths off of the fastest lap time through that part of the circuit. And currently green in the middle sector, and that's just above 2 tenths behind Bevans in that part of the circuit as well. So we'll have to see what Elvin Blomqvist can do in terms of, can they get onto the front row ahead of Finney potentially. I don't think it will be pole. It'd have to be a mega middle final sector to do that, and in the end it's a 1 minute 30, which does as they went yellow in the final sector, and it doesn't see them, it sees them move up into 2nd in the class, and currently just over 6 tenths off of Bevans' fastest time.
Indeed, I was going to mention there, just avoiding watching Ashley while he was on improvement. I that not to jinx him or curse him while he can hear us. So did improve earlier. Obviously pushed down to 5th now from Matt Townsend, but yeah, certainly great lap there from Elvin Blomqvist, who's reset to the pits as well, just to get a fresh set of boots in the final few minutes, see what else they can maximise out of their lap in these final closing stages. Jack Howley here, typically been a quick runner, but yellow in the first sector, half a second down from the best sector one there in class, so not doing too much. We'll have to put a lot of work in if he wants to improve, and with so little time left, the pressure is on, and that's certainly what you don't want at Imola when you're running down the clock and you've got, you know, more in it. You know you've got more in it, but you've really just got to get it on the lap, and you just overdrive, you make mistakes, and you just can't get that time on the board, unfortunately. So really, the pressure is piling up for Cowley, as you see him make a mistake there coming out of very into Alto, as you were saying, onto the gravel chicane. Will probably be now just preparing for his next lap, getting those tyres a bit more ready through the final revatsas, and then setting off on his way again for his final 2 laps, I think he's got time to do. But yeah, for this lap, it's not going to be great. Athel Basker in the GT3 class, slotting him to 5th as well, pushing Ashley Tamaranga and Selecki down even more. Jacob Pint also moving up to 8th. So finally getting a lap on the board. Nowhere near he'd want to be, I'm sure. Nowhere near what he's capable of. We've seen him, as I said, have some great performances throughout the series so far. So really, it's struggling, it seems, so far tonight.
The good news for Cowley is, even though they are in the top 5 of the hypercar class, their championship rival in Aidan Carter is only just ahead of them in the Alpine. The only issue is Bevan is going to be having a high scoring round currently, as they are on pole position for the session, and this would, well, if they can turn that into a win as well, it would make it back-to-back wins, and that would be the first driver to do so this season. As Aidan Carter, we can see currently, as I mentioned, running in 4th position, just over a second back off the fastest time in this session, set by Bevan in the 499p. We'll have to see what Aidan can do. I don't think this is a flying lap, or at least it's been invalidated, as they none of their 6 times are materializing. As we come to Tamanga here, currently is in 4th position in the Ford Mustang, highest of the Mustangs in the session, currently just over a 10th back from Petty Jelinek, as they are going to apply the brakes now to reset themselves back to the pit lane. As we come back to Tim Bob, currently 2nd in our Sim Hound oNiD Academy Series on Thursdays, just behind Baskar in that championship. We're currently 13th in this session, and it doesn't seem to be improving in the first and middle sector, and we'll have to see if they can find anything in this final sector. And it is a 1.4 second improvement that puts them in 13th with a 1 minute 44.480. So if time being found there, Angela Scott has been really consistent over this season. It's just been finishing 3rd consistently, and which has been great for some of their championship results, as they currently sit in 4th. But we are obviously with 2 drop rounds in this championship, as currently they are qualifying the car in 7th position. Would surely want to be a little bit higher up the field, but that is not going to help. They're locking up the front left there as they went through into Tosa, and now as they come up towards turns 9 and 10, it is still an improvement though, up 2 tenths on where they were in the first sector before this. So actually no, I mean they're 2 tenths back from Bevans this time, but that is probably what we've been seeing from most of the cars in this session. So a decent first sector from Angela Scott, as the yellow flag comes out in the top left of the screen. We'll come up towards Morante Alta here, and is currently 1 second now back from Bevans, and is yellow in that part of the circuit. So it's going to need something pretty phenomenal from the Ravazza here as they head down the hill under the DHL advertising boards. Goes to the left-hand side of the circuit, a little bit of a lock of the rear there, as you saw the back end snap out, and I think just picked up a little bit of gravel on the outside of the Ravazza there, the first part of it. And actually Andrew Scott realizes that this is not going to be improvement, and does come into the pit lane, and just about keeps it out of the barrier as they lock all the tyres up coming into the pit lane. Zach Finney here, it's yellow in all parts of the circuit so far in the first and second sectors, but isn't too far off the pace, so maybe a big improvement out of the final sector. It is a green middle final sector, I mean, puts them up into 3rd position there for the Toyota. So actually I think that just about keeps them where they were. It does mean that Cowley has been pipped to 5th though, as Chevelle has got their Ferrari into the top 5 of the session. Daniel Lindbaum currently in 13th in the GT3 Porsche that we're following now, has the best lap. Actually no, that's not the best lap, that's the best lap time in the session, I beg my own pardon. And we'll have to see what Lindbaum can do at this point in the session. It has the checker flags come up on their green. And well, as you can see so far, the top 5 in the LMGT3 field, it's Kiesig followed by Townsend, 3rd is Petty Jelinek, 4th is Vest, and 5th is Baskar. And if we look at the hypercar field as well, currently it's Bevan's leading the way in that class with Blomqvist in second, making it a Ferrari 1-2. Third is the Toyota of Finney, then the Alpine of Carter, and then 5th is the other Ferrari of Chevelle as we wait for Lindblom. Is their lap time currently valid at the moment, or have they seen the checkered flag and I'm making mistakes?
Nope, it wasn't valid. They'd finished the lap. They were just driving around.
Okay.
So that's the session flicking over now. They're obviously all in their pit garages. Let's quickly run through the full starting order then as quick as we can. Let me see if I can get the button for it. There we go.
So pole position for Alfie Bevans there in the 499P, followed by Elvin Blomqvist in the AF course coloured car. Then it's Zach Finney on row 2 with Aidan Carter in the first of the Alpines. Row 3 lines up as Daniel Chevelle in 5th. 6th place going to James Cowley, has a win this season in the Peugeot. Row 4 is Angela Scott, and then 8th is Nick Manders on row 4. Now to row 5, it's Jacob Hine in 9th, and then 10th goes the way of Charlie Morgan. Then on row 6 is 11th place Max Savchuk, and 12th place Tom Watson in the Jota coloured Porsche. Row 7 goes the way of Dave Spliner in 13th, and 14th is Runa Bertolfsson. Row 8 is the first of the GT3s, Christian Kiesig on pole position, followed in 16th by Matt Townsend in second in class. Row 9 is 3rd place Petr Jelinek, and 5th place Ralph Vest in the Corvette. Then row 10 is 6th place Atel Baskar, and 7th place Dmitry Yaroshenko in the Ferrari. Then on row 11 is Anton Tamanga and Johnny Ashley in the Mustang and the BMW. Then on row 12 is Tyler Hammer, last time's out winner, and Dave Jalecki in the McLaren. Then on row 13 we've got Matthias Fusgen and Greg Scott. And then on row 14 it is Daniel Lindblom and Tim Bobb in the United Autosports liveried McLaren. And then row 15, rounding out the grid, is Richard Mazan in the last of the Matei Porsches. Now, as we come through the final corner now, on this very, short formation lap, it is the two Ferraris that look to lead the way as everyone's now piles up in a double file as they come up towards the start finish line. Can Alfie Bevan make it a first back-to-back winner of the season? Will Elvin Blomqvist have anything to say about it, or even Zach Finney or Aidan Carter? We'll have to see as they all come up towards the start line now, crawling towards the start line. And now as we wait for the track to go green, which it has, and we're underway with an hour and 14 minutes of racing. It's Blomqvist moves slightly into the lead. It's going to have that outside line coming into turn 1. It's going to be the best of the late breakers, and that is Bevans. At the inside is Aidan Carter. He's going to try and go around the outside of Blomqvist, but has opened up the door to Zach Finney. Finney trying to hang him on the outside of the Alpine as they now come all the way down towards Villeneuve. Bevans has got a pretty decent lead with a couple of cars too wide. In the background is James Cowley trying to find a way past Chevelle for 5th position as we come to the battle for 3rd position. Car trying to defend to the inside, and all big Olsen as Angela Scott and Chevelle coming together. Angela Scott is going to the outside gravel trap at turn 7 Tosa, and is going to fall behind the GT3 field as we follow Tom Watson and the rest of the Porsches up the hill. It seems like they've all got through unscathed so far and all gone into single file at this stage of the race. In terms of the GT3 field, it is Townsend who actually leads the way in that class as Kiesig loses out at the start of the race with Tamanga. Actually, well, it says Tamanga in 3rd, but it's actually Tyler Hammer on my screen saying in 3rd. We've got more yellows. There's, I think that's Bertolfsson spinning off to the inside Minerali there. As we go further up the field, I don't know if that was contact with Max Savchuk, but that car is running pretty lonely by itself now as well, as Zach Finney still stuck to the rear of Aidan Carter.
Dude, what an incredible start there. Really big check up at Tosa. Johnny Ashley having falling down the order. I think we'll come to him in a bit. There we go, recovering side by side with the BMW there. There was also a penalty at the start. Tyler Hammer popping up at the top of the screen as a starting penalty, maybe out of position, so we'll have to serve that as well at some point. Zach Finney here as well, side by side through the opening chicanes with Aidan Carter, I think that is in the Alpine, is indeed obviously got the Peugeot of Alpine, sorry, of Nick Manders behind, I think. I'm getting all mixed up. Porsche of Nick Manders behind the Alpine of James I'm just gonna let's go back to you. I'm getting all crossed up.
Yeah, so James Cowley coming into that battle with Aiden Carter and Zach Finney as they were both battling through the first couple of corners. There, we'll come back to the GT3 field though. It currently has a Porsche of Angela Scott trying to make their way past these fighting cars, but actually they're all running pretty well behaved at the moment, as it's still leading the way is Townsend, followed by Christian Kiesig, who isn't seeing too much pressure from the Shenko up behind as Angela Scott, but eventually makes their way past the GT3 field and now can start their attack back up towards the guys in the top class. And all that's enough for Daniel Chevelle. Had a decent qualifying session, as we said, was running in 5th position, but that is not good, as they seem to have had an issue, I think, just on the exit. Oh, spun again as they come into Rante Alta, and has somehow done a full 360 and then ended up in the gravel track facing the right direction, but not a good couple of corners for them, as they find themselves right at the back of the field now with Angela Scott. So both these drivers are going to have to try and get back up towards the hypercar class as they come through the Ravazza now, and there must be some serious issues with Chevelle's Ferrari, because off again at Ravazza, and must just really be struggling. And I think this GT3 field is actually going to find their way past. Ralph Best really late on the brakes there, as it closes in on the rear of one of the Mustangs there. I think that is Tamanga that it was falling in behind. It was actually, as we come back to this battle, as Aiden Carr seems to have had an off as well while leading Zach Finney. Let's see what happened here. Just on the exit of the first few corners, this run across the gravel, bang into that outside wall, nearly collects James Cowley as they rejoin the circuit, and a massive tank slapper back into the outside wall just on the entry to Villeneuve, and somehow as well Jacob Hine just avoids them as they enter that part of the circuit as well. So Aiden Carr having a huge up there, which is surely going to cost them in this race. Has been really consistent over this season, but hasn't materialised today here at Imola, as again Aiden Carr off the circuit as well at Acuma Ali again. So it's obviously these flats, I don't know if it's tries flat spotting their tyres, or actually there was quite a bit of contact for Aiden Carr there as well, so the contact obviously driving them off the circuit through that section as well.
Indeed, lots of GT3s all scrapping for position as well. There's not much difference in pace, and that means you get these clumps of cars all looking for an opportunity to sneak on by. They don't have as much as overspeed as the hypercars do either. So here they come, all streaming up towards Variante Alto. Obviously, Aiden Carter dropping down the order, even past the GT3s now, towards the likes of Runo Boftelson and Daniel Chevelle, who obviously had bigger issues in the race, but luckily won't finish last, obviously, with them finishing TNFing before him, I think, haven't they? So Matthias Fuchskin here chasing down Dave Selecki, who's not far behind Ralph Vest, who's not far behind Athol Baskar. So a bit of a train, if you like, which tends to be the way of things at Imola, typically, until someone has an incident or dives into the pit lane and tries a different strategy. And strategy will be, I think, the game tonight, Tom. Such is the way with all the traffic and not much room to get past. When you take a pit stop, and how long you spend in the pit is going to be absolutely crucial. And then, as ever, that feeds into how much you want to lift and coast versus how much pace you want to lose. So it's a big challenge, big balance game. And sure, they've got a long time to think about it. But if they do want to lift and coast, they have to do that ahead of time. They can't just decide to do it in the final 2 laps of the race.
As well, and the good thing about kind of playing the conservative strategy here as well is that it is going to be hard for your opponent, if they are driving more aggressively than you, to get past. I would say really the only overtaking opportunity is through Tamburello, and normally drivers have to wait the whole lap to kind of come up to set themselves up for an overtake there, and then the rest of the lap you have to be very brave to try and get a move done through Villeneuve, and then maybe Tosa or maybe into Ravazza as well. But yeah, really the main overtaking spot for most of the race is Tamburello usually, as we see Matt Townsend running 2 tyres of the circuit through Paratella there as they come up towards Aqua Minerali now. He's under a little bit of pressure now from Petr Jelinek in the lead of the race, as Kiesig, actually not in the lead of the race, as Kiesig has retaken the lead. So this is the battle for second position that we're currently following as they make their way through Variante Alta there, as Townsend seeming to be feeling the pressure, as again kicks up the dirt on the outside of Alta there. So it does mean that, well, if you're Petr Jelinek, you are going to be sensing that McLaren is feeling a little bit of pressure and is kind of slipping some mistakes finally into its driving. Is that Christian Kiesig off the road ahead? I think it might. Oh no, it's Angela Scott. Actually, I think that car was. It's one of the Porsches at least in the hypercar field. Oh yeah, sorry, it's the Proton competition livery, and that car looks a little bit crabbish, like it's had some contact. So maybe at the left rear, I guess, but it doesn't look like it's potentially driving in the right direction. As Watson looking a little bit sketchy there as well. But we'll come back to this LMGT3 battle between the Aston Martin, the Mustang, and the McLaren. And it looks like Payne's going to go for a move. He's going to push the inside of the circuit as Johnny's just made up a few positions there as another Inception McLaren's off of the road as oh my gosh, we are through wide nearly through Villeneuve, and that is not what you want to see. Now into Total, trying to go round the outside the long way around is Tamanga in the Mustang, and he's being pushed out wide by the McLaren. They're banging doors as they make their way up towards Piratella in turn 9, and it's the McLaren on the inside, the Mustang on the outside. The Mustang trying to go for the switchback as they head up towards Aquaminerale. As will the Mustang try and go down the inside into Aquaminerale? Brakes quite heavily to try and get its nose out of the inside of the McLaren as they start their entrance into Aquaminerale. Now they're exiting Aquaminerale as they will come up towards Rante Alta here. This isn't really going to be overtaking opportunity here as well. And it does seem that Anton Temanga has put themselves in a bit of a tricky situation here, because they are now attacking Matt Townsend and they are up in position, but it does mean they are in a bit of a sandwich as well, because they have got the Aston Martin of Petty Jelinek running up behind them as well as they come into Aratsa again. And they are actually, it does seem like Petty Jelinek has fallen a little bit back from this battle now. So Anton Temanga does have a little bit of time to think about trying to get the overtake done for second position in class, as Johnny Ashley pressures Ralph West off of the circuit. They're just a little bit of mind puntery, if that, I think is the word, as just kind of forcing Ralph into a little bit of a mistake there. And actually it does seem that Ralph West is going to lose another position as well to one of the Ferraris, as Daniel Lindblom currently fighting side by side with Dave Jalecki here as they come up towards the braking zone for turn 1. And it seems that Jalecki has gone down the inside and got the move done on Daniel Lindblom and moves up our position here as we come back to the battle between Matt Townsend and Petty Jelinek. It seems that Townsend now has dropped to 3rd place in class and is currently fighting to stay on the podium in this session, as Petty Jelinek seems to have closed in on the Inception McLaren for the final podium slot. They're moving up the hill towards Piratella now. And again, it's not really part of the circuit that's going to produce overtaking opportunities. It may be an opportunity through Aquaminerale, as we saw maybe Matt Townsend's weaker part of the circuit. As you can see, the Aston Martin a lot later on the brakes and has closed in ever so slightly. That gap now is just under 4 tenths between them, but they will come up towards Rante Alta now. A lot more curb taken to the outside of the corner for the McLaren compared to the Aston Martin. And all that's an off as well for one of the Team Penske liveried cars. I didn't quite see who that was. Who is this?
Charlie Morgan here. So yeah, looking to get past the GT3 car, obviously going through I'm going to say the second chicane in the first sector, obviously side by side towards Tosa. Just doesn't leave enough room for the GT3, and they come together at deep into the wall. Heavy hit there for Charlie Morgan, and it's kind of a silly one, isn't it, really? Because
there's spin in the background as well. Sorry, there was another. I don't know who Charlie Morgan was behind Charlie Morgan, but he just saw on the edge of the camera angle there was another Porsche that was facing half sideways on the exit of Tosa. Sorry, please continue.
No, that's right. I missed who that was, but yeah, it's a silly one, really, because if Charlie had either given him more room or waited half a second, he'd be, way past them as they got up the hill. But it's happened now regardless. Johnny Ashley, by the way, into the pits for his iconic undercut strategy, and that's going to work well, I think, here at Imola. These two hypercars as well. This hypercar here trying to get past these two GT3 cars, and this is going to be the thing. There's going to be battles all over the place, and it's these hypercars wanting to slip on by and save as much time as possible without interfering with any battles, and that goes both ways, obviously. But these two side by side door banging through the chicane there, as the Porsche in the background looking to take advantage of this. That's Daniel Lindblom, obviously, in the Porsche, moving up the order, 4 places up since qualifying, looking to get back up the field. Obviously there's another Porsche hypercar in the background waiting to get past. Obviously just goes up alongside as they up towards the hill towards Piratella, and that Porsche looking for an opportunity all over the back of Ralphs and Dave Zalecki. A bit of a gravel thrown up there, so one of the cars going slightly wide, but luckily in a position where they can't lose too much from hitting that gravel there as they go through Acqua Minerale nice and tidy. There's a bit of a slide there from the Corvette, actually, rather characteristically, to be fair, of the Corvette. I've just noticed as well Zach Finney in the hypercar field, about to, well, in fact, is already past Elvin Blomqvist as a Lapper GT3 car.
But that separates the Ferrari 1-2 at the moment as Elvin Blomqvist falls back into third. Well, I think this is a replay of what happened. So they'll come into the braking zone for Alta here. And is it just a better drive? Oh, yeah, a little bit of a twitch at the front end there from the Ferrari. Drives it into the gravel and then up down the inside. Easy move for Zach Finney as they he's already passed by the entry to Verazza as actually down the inside back into turn 2 is Elvin Blomqvist. That looked pretty easy for him. Stuck in the slipstreams, just died to the inside of the last second, and that is the move back up into second for themselves actually, and then going for third place in the GT3 standings is still Petty Jelinek, right tucked under that rear wing of Matt Townsend at this part of the session. They'll come up towards Villeneuve now, and actually looking down the inside is Petty Jelinek. Has to brake quite a little bit harder there to make sure they don't connect the Inception Racing McLaren as they will come into the braking zone for Tosa as we come back to this battle between Ralph Beth and Dave Zalecki for position, as we've I think we've lost the Porsche from this battle as well with Limblom. But as they come through Tosa, as you can see there, they are just in the background. Maybe some hypercar traffic separating up this battle ever so slightly. And, well, it does mean the Porsche has fallen back just a little bit, so we'll be hoping that the two ahead do start fighting as we come back to the third place battle in the LM GT3 class, and it's still proving to be a little bit tricky for Petty Jelinek to try and get past the Inception car of Matt Townsend. They'll come into the braking zone for Brande Alta now. We'll have to see both been running over the curves. There are a lot more curb taken on the second part of that corner by the Aston Martin compared to the McLaren as they start their descent down the hill past the DHL advertising bridge into the braking zone. It's not really seeming close enough as actually Richard Mazan has had an off. I think that's at the exit of Acqua Minerale and has reset themselves back to the pit lane. We'll have a look at a replay here. It's one of the Porsche hypercars goes past. Doesn't seem to be the car that's the issue. Mazan turns in, makes a lot of curb on the first part and drives the car up the hill. It looks all normal for now and then actually just brakes and stops and pulls over. So I wonder what's happening there. Maybe it's a sim issue or just has to go and attend to something else. We'll have to see if they actually no, that is a DNF at that point once they've reset back to the pit. So
it is, yeah. I'm sure we'll hear about them after the race as well. But yeah, all chaos at the start. Lots of battles, as saying in chat. Some great battles from oNiD as a hypercar there slides their way through the first chicane there. Now Johnny's got a moment to breathe after the opening chaos and has claimed some positions and gone for his pit stop. Care to share how you feel your start was, Johnny?
Well, I had a bit of a moment at the chicane at the top of the hill on lap 1, which totally forgot I had cold tyres and brakes, which knocked me back from about kind of a 6th down to kind of 14th. But I managed to get back. I was very low on fuel. I've done that on purpose, as you mentioned, my famous undercut strategy that I try and do every so often. So yeah, I was low on fuel, and yeah, I had so much pace at the start. I managed to get myself back into a decent position. Now it's just enduro mode on and try and get my way as high up the field as I can. Just a bit of a recovery, really.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the GT3 cars, and if you want to give your strategy away or not, that's fine. But can you go to the end now with your fuel? No, okay, that's fair enough. And obviously there's flexibility to consider as well.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a 2-stop race. Unless you do some very, very heavy fuel saving.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And to be fair, Tom, we've seen that before, and we've seen cars somehow pull off, maybe it's a different series, but 100 minutes is incredibly long, and I don't think we'll see it at all, but certainly we'll see drivers think just, lifting and coasting enough to have a slightly shorter pit stop so they can undercut, their rivals or overcut slightly with the shorter stop, get out on track and get the job done in the pit lane.
It helps trying to pit to off sequence with some of the cars in this game as well. As we've mentioned before, compared to ATC, this game doesn't have ghosting in the pit lane. So when you do come in, you do have to be a little bit more careful that you don't leave your pit box and drive straight in the side of someone. So there is that advantage as well. But yeah, No, it's going to be this race is going to be decided a lot on strategy. In this game, it is a strategy driven. Well, it's kind of one that is driven a lot on strategy, and I think we'll see a lot. We'll see what works out nearer the end of the race as we ride on board with Christian Kiesig, who's under a little bit of pressure from Anton Temenga now.
He is indeed, and Temenga's just come out of nowhere really. He's got astonishing pace, has the best lap by 9/10 in the GT3 field. Obviously, Christian Kiesig, we mentioned maybe lifting and coasting a little bit more versus Anton Temenga here, who actually last lap as well was a second quicker than Christian Kiesig. So really he is putting the pressure on, and if Christian Kiesig is trying to go for that strategy where he's lifting and coasting enough to have a shorter pit stop, Anton Temenga is going to let him have none of that, because he's going to be putting enough pressure on him now there, where Christian's going to have to put his foot down to stay ahead and keep the lead of the GT3 field. And obviously we can see also on the track map, they've got a little bit of time before they've got any hypercars to deal with, so they can really have a good battle if they're able to. And Temenga looks like he's wanting it. So
as you can see now, the gap is closing quite visually between the pair of them as they go onto another lap and head up towards Tamburello. As you can see, Kiesig really throwing the car through there, and we'll have to see if the gap can be closed down by Temenga before they come into the pits. And actually, Temenga just through those couple of corners alone has caught quite a bit up. And now as they come through Villeneuve as well, it really seems like Temenga has the bit between their teeth as they will come up towards Toza into the braking zone now. Maybe a little bit deep as well by Kiesig through there. Doesn't get as close to the apex of the corner compared to the 88 Mustang. So they'll head up the hill now up towards Piratella and we'll dive onto the brakes now. You can just see a little bit later on the brakes there is Anton Temenga, and he's just able to carry a little bit of momentum through this part of the circuit as well, so it's really close now. Maybe next up will be within striking distance to the Porsche as they come through Acqua Minerale. Will go up the hill now under the Michelin advertising boards, and we'll have to see as they come through Ferrante Alsa. Will the Mustang be able to close in any more? Does again close in, but the Porsche just seems to have a little bit more of a solid line through there. Has carried a little bit more momentum and has been able to stretch out that gap as they start their descent down towards turn 16 as they go through now and into the braking zone for turn 17. And you can see the Mustang right on the rear of the Porsche through this section of the circuit. It will be important they get a good run through the second Ravazza here to try and set themselves up nicely for the start-finish straight. I still don't think the Mustang is close enough, but it's quite a bit closer than they were last time around and are really getting close to striking distance. This may even be striking distance. It would be quite a send if they do go for it into Tamburello. It's thinking about going to the inside, but has to decide against it in the end as Mustang is just about not close enough. But we saw how strong it was through Tamburello last time around, so may have an opportunity going into Villeneuve. Again, Peñalec's still there, and actually, as I say that, looking to the inside into Villeneuve is the Mustang, and down the inside into the race lead goes Anton Temenga. It's a great move down the inside. Christian Kiesig doesn't have anything to respond. He even runs through the gravel on the exit of Villeneuve there, and the Mustang now leads the race, obviously on a much more aggressive strategy. We have seen Christian Kiesig going for conservative strategies in past seasons on different platforms, so maybe doing the same here again today. Doesn't feel like they need to push as much as Anton Temenga is at this point in the session. We'll have to see how that works out for them. In the wall, Ralph Best, I think that's through Villeneuve. It is. Actually, no, is it through Villeneuve? No, there it's through the exit of Tamburello, and now we'll come up towards Villeneuve. Has a hypercar trying to go down the inside. Is it contact? Actually, I think moving room for the hypercar goes offline, and as you can see, average Corvette moment loses the rear end and spins backwards just about, maybe a little bit of a tap of the inside tyre wall or out of Villeneuve there, and actually I think has been able to continue in the end, but quite frustrating for Ralph Best because that Corvette hasn't really been his biggest friend so far this season. Has been quite tail happy. Is Charlie Morgan off again? I'm not quite sure. Is that Villeneuve as well? I think it is Villeneuve as well. It is.
I know it's Villeneuve, you're right, yeah, indeed. Luckily, both these drivers not losing their wing, because that's almost race over here, trying to get back to the pits with no wing this far away from them. So let's see then Charlie Morgan's mistake. Obviously, we saw him an issue earlier, a bit of a snap, corrects it obviously, but not enough room, not enough time to arrest the car. And it's such a high-speed corner. You know, a lot of these are, so as I say, a little bit of mistake. And you have a big issue crabbing as Charlie Morgan struggling to keep it in a straight line as he limps back up the hill. Got a long way to go to the pits, as I mentioned. You know, this almost might be retirable, to be honest.
Yeah, because that is, well, I mean, that is the definition of crabbing. That car is very much sideways. Here he is on board. You can see he's, well, steering wheel nearly at a full 90-degree right angle there, as he's trying to keep the Porsche in a straight line. Also has to be managing the speed as well to make sure they aren't going too quickly to lose control of the car as well. And also having to try and think about where the fellow hypercars are, where they need to be off of the racing line to make sure they don't collect anyone while running at this slower pace. So yeah, not great for Charlie Morgan, and yeah, quite a big Bosch into the Bosch advertising wall on the outside of Villeneuve, as Petty Yenelek still stuck behind Matt Townsend. Townsend doing a great job of defending so far in this race. I swear this battle's been going on for nearly probably 15-20 minutes now, and it seems like Petty Yenelek still in the same close proximity, but just can't find a way past the McLaren. And it's there's Charlie Morgan just trying to move out of the way. Luckily, those guys meet him just at the right time, and actually probably good news for Matt Townsend there, because if they'd met Charlie Morgan any later into that corner, that probably would have held him up and given Petty Yenelek an opportunity to try and get through. But luckily for them, well, actually luckily for Matt Townsend, I should say, they stay ahead of the Aston Martin driver as they continue running in fourth and third in the class. So it's actually, we've got a battle for second and third in the hypercar class, and this could be a move potentially for Zach Finney. He is in quite close proximity, 0.2, well, actually about 2 tenths back from the Ferrari, and that is closing in. That gap's getting closer, but the issue is they've got the GT3s as well, so he can't go to the inside. And actually, I think he's pushing over in Blomqvist through Tamburello. The issue is they've met the GT3s and have split them up, and it means that Paul Piernek has probably had a second gap put between himself. Actually, there you go, 6 tenths now between himself and Townsend because of the hypercars coming through. So that actually kind of worked out quite nicely in the end for Blomqvist, and it worked out quite nicely for Townsend, because both those drivers now have a little bit of a gap to the cars behind because they weren't able to overtake into Tamburello, as some more lap traffic finding their way between the two hypercars. And it does mean as well that the Toyota is going to have to try and quickly dispatch, I think, of Christian Kiesig. And luckily they've only got one more LMGT3 car to get past, and that's the leader of Tam Menga.
Indeed. Yeah, a bit of a tricky. Sometimes dealing with a car limping around in lap traffic, and sometimes you can take it to advantage, sometimes you can't. There's like kicks up some of the gravel coming out of Variante Alta, heading down the hill, obviously under the DHL banners into the final couple of corners. So a little bit into the race, then a little bit drivers obviously getting settled, getting up to their pace, getting into that rhythm that Johnny mentioned, getting into that enduro mode, and just settling in and getting to it, but you don't even think about the corners. It's all kind of instinctive. You brake, you turn in, you get going again, and that's kind of the best way to drive, really. But that's a bit difficult to do when you've got cars so close behind you, they're practically pushing you through the corner. We've got Angelo Scotti here, 3 tenths off the back of Tom Watson, obviously, in that Porsche up ahead. Porsche on Porsche as they go through the chicane here, looking to get a better exit, obviously, and maybe set something up going down the hill onto the brakes. They do see that GT3 car ahead, the Cadillac. Again, they both get past that, no issues, and without either of them being able to use it to their advantage, boxing the other driver in, for instance, as they get onto the brakes for the first Ravazza. Taking a bit different amount of curve there is Watson and Scotty. Scotty again slightly wider at the final corner, a little bit of a wiggle as well as they get onto the power. That's not going to help them, but certainly the slipstream will, as they obviously get onto the start-finish straight into the slipstream. It's not helped them much, but you can see that gap come down a bit more as they approach the first corner, and the braking's over the first corner. Let's see who's maybe a bit more brave on the brakes, a bit more stronger. Looks like Scotty certainly is closing up, but they've got that Constantina effect where you all punch up and then you all spread out again as you get onto the power, but certainly has capitalised from the braking powers there of Angela's left foot. Has closed the gap up a little bit as they enter the next set of chicanes here. And looking to the outside of Tosa goes Angela Scotti side by side through the corner, keeping Tom pinned there. Bit of a wobble for the gold Porsche of Watson, and that's Scotti through. Great job there, actually, coming out of the second chicane, coming out of Villeneuve with just a nice enough run to have a bit of overspeed and go around the outside.
Yeah, and that was a great run all the way from Tamburello as well, to carry that momentum into Villeneuve as well, and just to get the move done, have the confidence to send the Team Penske Porsche around the outside of from Watson and trust that Watson was going to give them the space. It was, yeah, very, very good move, and well, kind of shows the quality of their driving so far this season. As we've already mentioned, Angela Scott has, well, it's just been consistently third in every race this season. Maybe a bit of a harder task today, based off of the start of this race and their recovery drive at the moment, but has been a quality driver over the season, and is just showing that now as they come into the braking zone for Vatsa. And well, the next target up the road, I think, is another Porsche. I can't actually quite see who it is. Actually, no, it's Dave Splinter. So that will be the next target for Angela Scott. And we'll come back to this when they catch up. And actually, it might be sooner rather than later. As across the grass goes Dave Splinter, the Ferrari, the LMGT3 Ferrari. Wasn't aware that Splinter was on their inside, and Splinter just turned into a rather expensive lawnmower and, well, kind of rallycrossed his way across the start of turn 1 there, and luckily for them kept the car facing in the right direction and kept it out of the walls. So, well, that could have been bad for Splinter, but never mind. So, but it's good news for Angela Scott, because it does mean that gap's going to come down quite a lot quicker, as Splinter then again on the exit of Tosa does the same again. So actually, Angela Scott, this is all good news for them, as it seems like Splinter's it's stuck in a little bit of the wars at the moment, and it has brought that gap down to about, actually just now, under a second between them, as we come back to the battle between Matthias Fusgen and Dave Jalecki, the Inception car plus the JMW Motorsport Ferrari, the 296 up against the 720S, as they start their way up the hill again, up towards the Verante Alta, turns 14 and 15 of the circuit, and Jalecki not really close enough yet to try and get the move done on the Ferrari, and probably won't be close enough again into Vatsa, but we'll probably be hoping for a good run out of the second part of that corner to try and set themselves up for Tamburello. The Fiber is a little bit deep into the corner there as well. Isn't able to carry as much momentum as the McLaren is, and actually this could be a move into Tamburello for the McLaren of Dave Jalecki's in close proximity, just under 4 tenths off, 3.5 tenths off now, and we'll have to see what Dave Jalecki can do. Will they be able to get close enough? He's thinking about looking to the inside into Tamburello, but it's just a little bit too far back, so he's going to have to stay behind Matthias Fusgen for a little bit longer in this part of the race, unless they can get something done up towards Villeneuve. Gets a nice run out the exit of Tamburello, but still just isn't close enough to capitalise it from any mistakes from the Ferrari driver running up ahead.
Indeed, and again, while there's a little bit of a lull, I say that actually, let's quickly look at Scotty's here there. So while we have this on in the background, and just keep an eye on Scotty and Spiller getting closer together. Charlie Morgan makes a good point. How many drop rounds are there in this series? Well, there are 2, and that's very interesting, because tonight's the 4th race, Tom. And if you look at the standings quickly, as you alluded to earlier, there are 6 different winners in total, 3 in each class, obviously. And that means basically, as the Porsche drops it and picks up Spiller a little bit while doing so, that's actually Scotty having an issue into the back of Dave Spiller. Luckily those two are still going on track in the same way, just a bit of a worse tyres there for Scotty, but that could have been a lot worse than it ended up being. Didn't lose out to Tom Watson, who's now 7 tenths behind, and Scotty will be defending from instead of attacking Dave Spiller, sorry. Back to my point about the standings though, 3 different leaders in each class. They all are on 50 points, which means tonight it's kind of, this is where the points break out, and we'll see really who's leading, what's the situation like, and who's in a bit of a worse place. I think Alfie Bevan, if I'm correct, has used both their drop rounds on DNSs and DNFs, really, so every poor result will count. So it's crucial for them, whereas Aiden Carter obviously not in the same boat. And again, the GT3 field is so funny, we've got those different leaders, they're all on the same points, and Johnny Ashley in 4th as well, looking to improve on that. So yeah, this is the first kind of week where we'll see, what's the standings looking like.
And I would say, so far, yeah, so the last time out was actually Alfie's first finish of the season. So yeah, as you say, really needs to make sure that they are consistent over the rest of the season. Whereas actually, Aiden Carter, James Cowley, and Angela before this round had all been very consistent. Angela Scott, third, as we mentioned. Then as well, James Cowley hasn't finished any lower than 2nd so far this season, has a 1st and 2 2nd place finishes. And then Aiden Carter has a 1st, a 2nd at round 1, and last time out came 4th at Le Mans as well. So those guys in a really good position for the championship so far, just through the utter consistency they've had so far this season. And then actually, because we didn't speak about them too much, in the LMGT3 field, that obviously is currently led by Tyler Hammer and Aftel Baskar and Christian Kiesig. Tyler Hammer does have missed round 2, so it kind of can afford one more bad round. But for Baskar, it's been consistent so far. Worst finish of 4th and then a 1st and a 2nd. Christian Kiesig has a 1st, 2nd and 3rd and could add another 1st to that today. And then Johnny, he's actually in 5th, had the lowest finish of 5th and was finished 2nd at the 1st round, but can only really afford one more bad round. Had a DNF at round 2. Is a little bit of a mistake there from, I think that was Zach Finney fighting with Elvin Bombas. Sorry, I think I spoke over that.
No, it's fine. Here's the replay of it. As they obviously head through towards Zach Minarelli. The Ferrari ahead, obviously, of Elvin, just opening up the entry a bit more, taking a different line as Zach Finney gets onto the curb, lights up the rears, able to keep hold of it, but that was very, very sideways for Zach Finney. So great job there. Obviously loses out some time, 3 seconds actually to Elvin Blomqvist, but luckily he's still going.
So we'll come back to this battle between... Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, as we go back to this battle, really, these two still fighting red on red, McLaren on Ferrari as they flick through the first chicane there, really are quite racy, as Dave Zalecki and Mateusz Fiskin.
Yeah, it was, well, it's still stuck in the same position again, showing just how difficult it is to overtake on this circuit sometimes, and that is why strategy is going to be so important here today, because, well, just being a little bit off strategy to the car ahead could see you, well, gain massively or lose massively in this session as they make their way out of Toto. And that's another yellow flag, and it's poor Ralph Vest to see. I couldn't see where that was. Actually, it's into Tamburello by the looks of it, as they'll come into the braking zone now as they come up towards curb, and they're just brake by the curb and turns the car in. Kind of misses the first apex, puts them a little bit offline for Tamburello. You can see the rear end already escaping them, and they just touch the outside grass, which sends them into a spin and into that outside tyre wall at the exit of the corner. But have continued, or actually, or have they continued on? Oh no, this is another replay. Sorry, this is Lindblom. So let's see what Lindblom's done here. That's Zach Finney trying to go up the inside, very late on the inside, and as they
that's Netcode. This is him just losing it out of the exit of Toto. I think because we were in a replay a moment ago, it's slightly messed up, this replay. But yeah, didn't get away with it, Lindblom. We caught everything.
Yeah, there might have still been a little bit of contact between them, but that's me having a little bit of a yes, because they look, when it went out of the net coding, it looked like they were quite close. The front left of the Porsche looked quite close to the rear right of the Toyota just before it spun, but maybe there wasn't any contact at all between them, and it was just driver error. As I think we've come back to live images now. Between,
but I'm stuck on the replay scene, and I can't get back to the live one for some reason. Let me see if I do this and then go back. Sorry everyone, this is a bit funky. There we go.
There we are. So yeah, still leading the way in the race is Alfie Bevan, followed by Elvin Blomqvist, who's now 17 seconds down the road. So Alfie absolutely flying here at Imola today. Zach Finney currently in 3rd in the Toyota, whereas James Cowley 4th and Manders running in 5th position. As where's the am I forgetting an incident that happened? What happened to Aidan Carter? Oh yes, no, they went off. We did see that.
Oh right, yeah, of course, yeah, DNF'd. Yeah, we did see that.
We DNF'd. We did see it. Yes, sorry, that's my.
We can watch it again if everyone wants to watch, just to remind everyone.
No, let's not remind people. Let's not put poor Aidan through that again. As Dave Zalecki still stuck on the rear of Mateusz Fiskin. This gap kind of just fluctuating around the half a second area. No real chance for Dave to try and get past yet. Kind of a similar battle to what we saw with the other Inception race in McLaren of Townsend in this session, who's currently actually has been overtaken by Petr Jelinek now, who has moved up into 3rd place in the LMGT3 class. As we can still see Mateusz Fiskin trying to find a way past. Trying to defend from Dave Zalecki, I beg my own pardon, as they will come on to the start from the straight again. It's about the same gap though, so I don't think really Dave has the straight line grunt to really get anywhere near or past the Ferrari as they head up towards the braking zone for Tamburello. They will get onto the brakes just as the curb starts there now, and it's again not close enough for the McLaren to try and get the move done. A lot more curb being taken by the McLaren. Driver leading quite aggressively at this part of the race, but again, just no real opportunity yet for Dave Zalecki to try and get past the Ferrari. and move up into a better position in the field. They'll break into Toaster now. We'll have to let past the Proton Racing a Porsche behind them, but yeah, a little bit frustrating for Dave Schleck. He just really cannot find a way through, and well, he's kind of stuck in that 3 temps marker toward in proximity to Matthias Buskin at this part of the session. And well, this looks like it is the closest battle on circuit. Tom Watson's just about a second back from Splinter for 8th position, but that seems to be fluctuating quite a bit as well. And then everyone else seems to be about just either massive gaps around over the 10-second mark, or just around 5 to 9 seconds in the rest of the field. So a lot of gaps seem to be splodging up throughout the field. Actually, this gap quite close here between Daniel Lindblom and Greg Prescott in the Ford Mustang, as again, but still not particularly close between them. There are still a bit of time for the 19th place car, Greg Prescott, to try and find to get somewhere towards Daniel Lindblom, as they let, I think that's Angela Scott, through in the Porsche. And so Angela Scott moves up past these GT3 cars into Alta. And well, Sam, when do you expect we'll see some pit stops?
It's a very good question, and if I'm honest, I don't know. We're just having a little look at the virtual energy here, though, just to see how low they're getting and what the difference is. You know, we can see that the leader, Bevan Blomqvist, 1650% as the Porsche here tries to get past these 2 cars fighting. But Finney in 3rd in the Toyota has 20%, so has a little bit more. Means he can stay out a little bit longer, means he'll have potentially a shorter pit stop if he does decide to stop at the same time as those others. So, you know, there's that option. Does he stay out longer and try and get that overcut? Does he come in the same time as Blomqvist and Bevan and have a shorter stop? You know, and now how will that affect his next stint? So, really interesting question. Go on.
I was going to say I'd go if I've got the energy like Finney has as well, because Finney's been running at their pace as well. So I think while they come out the pit lane, obviously in this game on cold tyres, I think Finney, with that extra 5%, could really set some nice lap times and probably move ahead of Elvin Blomqvist as well. And obviously if they do go for the kind of overlap, it does mean as well that they will probably come into a quieter pit lane, because everyone else around them will probably have had to been forced to pit. And it does mean that they don't have to worry about, kind of, as I mentioned earlier, no ghosting in this game. So as you come out your pit stall, you do have to be careful of the cars coming into the pit lane and make sure you don't run in the side of them. So if Finney comes in when there's less people in the pit lane, he's not going to really have to think about that. And it should maybe, well, just potentially, I think staying out longer, setting some lap times while the others can't on their cold tyres, and then coming in a little bit later, I think it could work out nicely for the Toyota.
Yeah, very good points there. Manders also has the advantage of having 20%. Obviously, they do tend to update in intervals. This isn't a live, there we go, updates now to 19%. Again, Scotty 20%. So there's a bit of a difference. You know, 15, 14, 13 is the lowest, and we've got 24, Savjuk being the highest there. So a bit of a difference. Obviously, as well, the GT3 cars do have virtual energy to consider and contend with too, but unfortunately we just can't see it on this graphic, unfortunately. But again, same thing to them. They're probably thinking, you know, maybe if I edge off a little bit more towards the corners, you know, shorter stop, etc., etc. And I think it matters where you are on track. You know, Dave Spiller here on the back of Tom Watson, for instance, can't afford to be lifting and coasting. He wants to battle to get that track position. You know, whereas Tom Watson ahead maybe thinking, you know what, as long as I can keep him behind me, I can be slightly slower into the corner. So depending on where you are, depends on, I suppose, what you're doing as well, especially if you feel like you're being held up, where Dave Spiller might think he's capable of faster lap times, might encourage him to stop sooner, you know, and that way jump him in the pits as they go side by side, by the way, towards Tosa and around, or at least trying to go around the outside. Side by side they still go, still a little bit over that. Does have a Ferrari GT3 car to help them out or hinder them, depending on who you're supporting, really, as they head up the hill towards Puritella. Such a tricky corner this, by the way, if you're so close on the back of someone. You can't quite always judge where they're going to be, where they're going to be braking, and how your car's going to perform in the dirty air so close.
Yeah, and actually there was a nice little bit of defending there by Tom Watson as well, knowing kind of good track awareness, knowing the Ferrari was there, so just kind of kept his car in position, forced Splinter to have to brake and back out of the move. So nice little kind of using what's around you as a defensive tool there by Watson. The issue is it does look like Splinter still does have the kind of major pace advantage on the Jota Porsche. So as they head down the hill into Ravazza, maybe into up towards Tamburello, this could be an opportunity for Dave Spinner. It's all going to depend again on this what sort of run the Porsche gets out of the final corner and just seems to be able to carry just a lot more speed onto the straight compared to the Jota car. Actually, or has there? The gap kind of fluctuating as actually Rune Bertolfsson has been off, and that's into Villeneuve again by that Bosch advertising board, and has had the same sort of issues now as Charlie Morgan did, is going to have to crab their way back to the pit lane. And actually Spinner loses out a little bit to Tom Watson through Tamburello there. As you can see, just took too much curb, launched the car up in the air, and it's just unsettled it through that section of the circuit, and has meant they've lost out. And the issue is as well, they've met this Dave Schlecki battle, and it does mean that Spinner is going to have to try and start its way between the McLaren and the Ferrari as gets past one and will get past two on the exit of Tosa.
Indeed, running up the hill again where they were last up, obviously, where we picked them up down towards Aqua Minerale. Aqua Minerale, to be fair, you know, if you want to save some fuel, save some time, it's probably a good place lifting into it. It's a bit careful, a bit more careful, obviously. When you're really pushing for time, you can really be on the edge through Aqua Minerale, and you can risk, you know, do or die, risk it all, or come home with nothing, to be honest. So that's a good place to save time if you do, because the car behind you can't get past, really. So, you know, if you go slightly slower, doesn't matter to you, as long as you're not trying to catch up with the driver ahead, obviously. Christian Kiesig is overtaking Anton Tamarenga. Tamarenga's in the pits, that's why. First of the GT3, second of the GT3s to blink. I'd completely forgotten about Johnny ages ago with his signature undercut 20 minutes ago, whatever it was. Into the pits goes Tamarenga. We'll keep an eye on his stop time. He's going to be the benchmark, obviously, leading the way. He'll want to have the best strategy, being so close to Christian Kiesig. He can't afford to be suboptimal and, you know, put a little bit of extra fuel in just in case. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as he slips down the Uber, obviously. And I wonder, Tom, as well, are other drivers seeing Anton in the pits thinking, well, if the leader's doing it, maybe now's the best time to do it as well for me?
Yeah, and obviously as well, we did see Tamenga was pushing quite a lot through the early stage of the race as well, so that could be why they've just come in a little bit early compared to everyone else in the class, because they really just seem to be pushing in this early part of the race. So we'll have to see what Kiesig is, well, how long he goes in response, as we still come back to this Inception battle, and with Dave Schlecki on board against Matthias Fusken. Fusken runs actually a little bit deep through Tota, and is that going to compromise their exit? It gets a little bit of twitchy at the rear as the wheels spin up on exit of Tosa there in the 296, but it doesn't seem to have cost the Ferrari too much as we'll head up the hill. Now brake into the left-hander up towards Aqua Minerale, back onto the power now, up into third gear, and there'll probably be a slight dab of the brakes, downshift into Aqua Minerale, then another downshift as they come into the second tighter part of the corner, and then back on the power up the hill for not Matthias Fusken, for Dave Schlecki, as they'll come into the braking zone, hard onto the brakes by the curbing now, downshifts down into first gear and applies the power on exit of the corner. And the issue is as well, it just seems like Dave Schlecki isn't able to get any closer to Matthias Fusken. Even if anything, the gap coming extending out a little bit, up to 7/10 in this part of the circuit, as they'll jump onto the brakes for the Ravaz. Now runs a little bit deep into there and is going to get a decent exit, well actually exit out of the corner, but it actually isn't even going to matter because into the pit lane comes Matthias Fusken.
Indeed, we can see there as well on the HUD there, Dave Schlecki into the red bars now on the energy. So that's his virtual energy meter, really. Can't give you a percentage, but it's in the red, so obviously will be on his mind that he'll need to pit soon. And obviously, as you said, has seen Fusken peel into the pit, so we'll be thinking, no, I need to nail this lap. I can't afford to make any really big mistakes because we were so close before the pits. You know, I have to get this bang on, and it's a bit tricky with this hypercar traffic coming along and getting on by. But he hasn't impeded them too much. I'd imagine maybe Tyler here, Dave here, probably thinking of going into the pits this lap as well. Seeing his competitors there as well. Doesn't want to, you know, leave himself too vulnerable to an undercut. So possibly on his mind. As we see some other GT3 drivers come into the pits as well, including Greg Presco, who is having a fantastic race, by the way, was Greg. Up a number of places since the start. Currently up 3 places, even being in the pit stop. So he hasn't, you know, he's doing pretty well.
Yeah, decent start as we come on board with Angela Scott, now found their way up to 6th in class. Well, actually not up to 6th in class yet, because that is Jacob Pine who holds that position at the moment. And twitching all over the circuit is Angela trying to find a way past Jacob Pine. running all over the curves, trying to defend from the Porsche. The Porsche's going to take a much tighter exit out of Tamburello, though, trying to look up the inside. It doesn't seem like there's a spot there for the Porsche to try and find its way through up into Villeneuve. And again, both of them into the gravel there. It just shows how much they're pushing to try and stay ahead of one another. And again, a little knock-up at the front left there from Angela Scott. And actually a mistake on exit from Toaster there has meant that Scott is now alongside Jacob Hine as they head up the hill, up towards Piratella now, and down the inside goes Angela Scott. They're both going to nearly bang wheels. There's really not a piece of paper between them as they head down the hill up towards Agman Arani, and around the outside cuts to the inside, and through goes Angela Scott up into 6th position as Jacob Hine has to settle for 7th in the end. A good move again by Angela Scott to just hold that inside line through Piratella to then give them the momentum to run it all the way around the outside into, well, kind of on the entry to Agman Arani, because they're the inside by the first turn in that section of corners anyway. So a good move by Angela, and now we'll probably try and set their sights up. Well, actually it's going to be a bit of a challenge now because they've got a few pitted cars ahead of them. Probably Nick Manners will be their next target once they pit, but most of the leaders into the pit with Bevan, Blomqvist, Finney and Cowley all in coming in for their stop. So Finney obviously deciding not to go longer.
Indeed, and here's your screenshot. Nick Manners leading the race somehow, yet to stop obviously. So yeah, having a time on track on his own to really push before obviously coming into the pits, like you mentioned. All the hypercars are so close on energy. We saw Nick having a bit more than the others, so able to stay out a little bit longer and stay on track, as long as it doesn't cost him time and, you know, cost him on the undercut. But I'd imagine with the lower fuel and the track himself, obviously a lot more cars are in the pits, he'll be able to really crack on and get a nice lap in. Johnny actually obviously now reaping what he sowed earlier. Actually, he's attacking Matthias Fisken and going side by side through those chicanes there. Just gets the job done. There we go. Matthias Fisken recovering from the gravel. But here's Johnny actually reaping what he was sowing. Obviously, stopped earlier than these other GT3 cars. Is now able to sail on by while they're in the pits or coming out of the pits and getting up to speed again with their heavier fuel load. He's obviously burned some off and has a bit more pace. Looks to be working well for you, Johnny.
Yeah, a little bit hairy with Fuskin there, but I had a hypercar coming out of the pits and I was like, I don't know where to go. But yeah, no, I don't know if it's going to work. I think I'm using less virtual energy than what I would. So some of these guys actually might want to be one-stopping, where I'm definitely going to have to two-stop. So we'll have to see how it goes towards the end. Yeah,
certainly. Looks to be... to be fair, Tom, it looks to be throughout the field like the GT3s aren't having too much trouble getting past people. I don't think they'd struggled more. Maybe I'm used to, I don't know, ACC, but whatever's different, I don't know. But it just seems to be, you know, a lot more ability to battle, and yeah, some drivers really pulling it off in the race so far.
Maybe with that moment as well. I don't know. I think Fuskin had just come in, so maybe some cold tyres for Fuskin there as well. We're still just trying to get them up to temperature, which allowed Johnny to get through. But it was a great move by Johnny in the end there. As he said, it got a little bit hairy, but kind of kept his kind of muscled his way through in the end. As we come to Tyler Hammer, who's currently running ahead of Temenga. I think we're still waiting for Hammer to come in, unless Temenga's had a rather lengthy stop. No, I think we are still waiting for some of these guys to come in. We've got a quite lengthy yellow flag I've just noticed, and that is for Ralph Fest. He spun to the inside of Rarazza there, just has left it by the marshalling area there. He's trying to reverse back onto the circuit. Has eventually made it back onto the circuit and is sideways in the middle of the circuit now, so needs to get the car going, which they're not. Actually has got it going in the end. It was all
slightly too eager to get going, I think.
Yeah, it's exactly that, and it's actually spun into a half spin and now has to try and rejoin this Rarazza again, and that's just going to carry on losing them positions. Actually, I think maybe even been lacked there by Yaroshenko, who's come past. As we come to the race leader again, Alfie Bevan has retained their race lead as well, it's currently 6 seconds up the road from Scotty, but well, I think Scotty has now come into the pit lane for their first stop, so it will be Blomqvist that should resume second place in this race. But yeah, really been a classy drive by Alfie Bevan at the moment. Really hasn't had too much to worry about. It just basically held the inside into turn one at the start of this race, and has really been their race to lose so far. But I think if my memory serves me correctly, their DNF in race 1 of this championship before now. They were leading quite comfortably, and I think Alfie ended up throwing it off of the road. So still anything can happen in this race. 48 minutes to go, and still a lot to play for. As actually we've got a little bit of a battle here, and James Cowley kind of getting wedged between two GT3s, really ran into the pit wall there as he tries to make his way past the pair of them. It's the Inception McLaren. It may be Fuskin and Jalecki again running side by side, and I think it is, as I think that's Johnny that the Peugeot has just come past as well. So I think that's the Inception McLaren just about holding on to position ahead of Matthias Fuskin. So obviously whatever the McLaren strategy was has worked out and got it ahead. Actually no, it's not Fuskin, it is Townsend. So Townsend currently fighting with the Ferrari just there, as we can see it now. Townsend running ahead of Matthias Fuskin. So Fuskin going from being hunted by one Inception McLaren to now hunting in this Inception McLaren as they come out of Tosa. But for now, Matt Townsend doing a good job again of defending their position from Fuskin, and this is currently the battle for I think that was 5th in the LMGT3 class, as we saw Savchuk now into the pit lane, as we can see the hypercar field getting quite close. Finney's actually just under 3 tenths now back from Blomqvist again in that battle, so that's going to be heating up near the end of this race. Can it be a Ferrari 1-2, or will Zach Finney spoil the party? We'll have to wait and see what Finney can do. And Finney actually is really getting quite close and is seeming quite fighty with the Ferrari, and the Ferrari does seem a little bit nervous at the rear end again as it slid through the exit of Villeneuve. So as we come through Tosa now, and again looking really skittish at the rear end, it just seems to be very unsettled. So it's now Zach Finney heads up the hill up towards Piratella again. It wasn't really close enough to get the move, have a look down the inside. So they'll come up towards Akman Arane again, the Toyota, up against the Ferrari. Maybe this is what we'll be seeing in a week's time at the 24 Hours of Le Mans between these two manufacturers, as we come into the braking zone again for Varante Alto, and we'll have to see who's able to get the power the best out of here. And I think it's the Toyota again, just seems a lot more stable out of the corners, is able to get on the power a lot more earlier than Elvin Blomqvist is at this point in the race. So as they come into the braking zone for Marazza, the Toyota, it seems to be closing in quite a bit on the AF Course liveried Ferrari. So as they come on to start finish straight, it's a 0.350 gap roughly between the pair of them. So will the slipstream be strong enough for the Toyota to capitalise on? I don't think it will be. The Toyota is kind of closing up. It's just under 3 tenths between them now, but by the time they get to the braking zone for Tamburello, the Toyota again, it just isn't close enough to pull any sort of move on the Ferrari for now. But again, the Ferrari just not looking comfortable at the rear end. It really seems to be sliding around the corners, quite a lot of them, and it's going to be, well, it's not going to inspire confidence from Melvin Blomqvist in this battle, and it is going to potentially produce some errors if he is caught out by any sliding moments from that Ferrari. But it seems to be doing a good job coping with it at the moment, and actually may even be opening up that gap between them now as it gets a really nice exit from Tosa up towards Piratella now, and the gap is actually up to 8 tenths now, so it seems a little bit more comfortable on this lap to Elvin Blomqvist, and it does seem like that gap is opening up between the Toyota and the 83 Ferrari at this point in the race. The gap now stretches, well, just briefly there, stretched to over a second between the pair of them. And again, this is probably one of our close battles in the field, with a lot of cars just after these pit stops seem to be spread out again. And it's up to Zach Finney to try and bring us some sort of battle here, but it doesn't seem like they are close enough to try and get, well, actually are nowhere near close enough. They've fallen back quite a bit over this lap, and it does seem that Finney is going to have to try and, well, hope for a mistake from Blomqvist, or he's going to have to just try and find some pace from somewhere.
Indeed, very close. And speaking of close, the pit stop times, very close. Alfie Gunn, by the way, spent 1 minute and 18 seconds in the pits. Blomqvist and Finney spent the exact same time in the pits, 1 minute 16. Where the anomaly is really is James Cowley, a whopping 1 minute 28 seconds. So I don't know what he was doing, maybe making a cup of tea, but spent a fair bit extra time in the pits than the rest of actually the rest of the top 6. Everyone else was 1:15, 14:16, like I was saying. Very, very close. So a bit of an odd one there, but holding on to 4th is James Cowley, obviously just ahead of Nick Manders for now. Yeah, we'll have to see how the rest of the race plays out. 44 minutes to go. Matt Townsend not far off the back of Johnny Ashley. Sorry to scare Johnny, but he's on his way down in P5, obviously fighting for people. We see the Ferrari in the background, the hypercar Ferrari, making a little error coming out of Alta, but obviously has the hypercar grunt to just get on by and recover past the TT3s, and maybe looking to be very cheeky and get past there the first Rivata, that's it, that's what it was called. Maybe slightly hinder Johnny, but has the McLaren now in the slipstream as well as they come down the start-finish straight. Townsend was 3/10 quicker last lap than Johnny, so it has some extra pace, and it seems to be deploying it now. Dave Zalecki also not far behind, not far at all behind Nathan Basco, also getting onto the start-finish straight. Matej Fuskin peeling off into the pits, strangely, for a second time this race, I think.
And I think as well, I was just looking in chat, Horizon Media, I know who that is, but I think it's escaped me who it actually is now. Oh, Charlie Morgan. Okay, so yeah, Charlie, I quote, this is quoting Alfie Bevins, I've only just bought this track, so Alfie dominating the race despite apparently only just purchasing the Imola circuit for LMU, so just shows just how quick Alfie can be, and I think all of us are quite aware how fast he is at this stage in, well, LMU and in AC, and really any platform he touches. So as Zach Finney has closed the gap up again to Elvin Blomqvist, is currently just under 4 tenths behind the Ferrari, and actually this traffic up ahead could come in quite handy. Actually, it is the battle between Townsend and Ashley, so the two hypercars go past Townsend into Akram Raleigh, and now will... Oh wait, no, this is... Oh no, oh wait, no, I think I may have been wrong. That is Matt Townsend and Johnny Ashley now going through Ferrante Alta as they start their descent down the hill towards the Ravazzas, as Townsend is closing that gap up. He's currently just about, is kind of bouncing around the 3.50 area, now comes in 2 tenths, so this is going to be probably within striking distance into turn 1. It's going to have a nice slipstream from the big rear end of the BMW as they come through the turn 1 now, and as they will come up towards Tamburello now, the braking zone's here. Is McLaren going to go for a move? No, it's not, as we actually see some lights starting to turn on the cars as we head into the evening stages of this session, as the sun starts to set over the Italian circuit as we come up towards Villeneuve now. Into the little dab of the brakes again for Matt Townsend, but no way through past Johnny Ashley so far over this lap. We're just over 40 minutes to go in this race as these two stick together, and actually there is the battle now between Blomqvist and Finney, joining these two as they come up towards Piratella. That's one of the hypercars past, and actually that's worked out quite nicely for Elvin Blomqvist, as it seems that Zach Finney has got stuck behind these two LMGT3 cars, and that's meant the gap's opened up to 1.3 seconds between Finney and Blomqvist, and that brings back other endurance racing. It gives and takes away sometimes, as well, depending on where you meet the traffic, you can either be your biggest friend or your biggest enemy, and at the moment Zach Finney is his biggest enemy as he's meeting every LMGT3 car in the wrong part of the circuit, and it is really hindering them because the gap again only 1.2 seconds now between Elvin Blomqvist and Finney, whereas it was probably a second less than that a lap ago now. So a bit frustrating for Finney, but at least still has a nice gap to Cowley, who just doesn't seem to have the pace here today. He's currently 33 seconds back in 4th position in the hypercar class.
Indeed, a long way to go yet though, long way to go, 40 minutes. Anything can happen, particularly Imola. You make one mistake, as I was saying, in a corner, and you're off as we have Johnny Ashley into the pits for the second time of this race to pull off his strategy. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, that releases Matt Townsend for now. We'll have to see what he's capable of. And Matt Townsend actually lapping, I'm guessing that's Tim Bob. It is Tim Bob, who's down in P13 in class, and on his way, indeed. Zach Finney, as we were saying, getting closer and closer to Elvin Blomqvist. And you mentioned the suspense about Ferrari 1-2 leading the way. I could make it slightly worse if I click this button, and then you don't know who You don't know where the manufacturers are suddenly. But there we go. These two still getting closer and closer together, though, as well. And someone mentioned in chat as well, what happened to Scotty's Flides? Scotty's up to 6th in class. Obviously, we saw them battle Tom Watson, Dave Spinner, Jacob Hine earlier on, and have slipped on by. Jacob Hine, another driver, actually, with a slightly slower stop. So maybe Angela just capitalising on that and undercutting them in the pit lane instead.
And yeah, so it's been a good recovery drive by Angela after that incident through Tosa with Chevelle, who suddenly had to retire from this race. So yeah, it's been a good recovery drive after being off in the gravel at Tosa at the start of this race, as Daniel Lindblom is now fighting with Matthias Fusgen in class. Actually, it's probably worth looking at as well. Fusgen has come into the pit lane. I'm just looking, and Dave Schnecki seems to have got out ahead as well, so maybe Schnecki just hasn't been able to make that strategy work to stay ahead of Fusgen after being stuck behind them for so long in this race. Has still got 24 cars running, did start with 29 but have lost the majority of the hypercar field and the Sam from the LMGT3 field. So it has, again, it's been as we've seen with this game, it has been one that is one of kind of pretty high. Well, it lives up to the title, pretty high endurance. You have to make sure that you're quick and that you keep it out of the walls and keep it out of each other. So yeah, it's been another high attrition race, but with a lot of drivers kind of seeing that if as long as they finish, they probably will get somewhat of a decent result as we start the descent down the hill between these two. Fusgen currently still just over half a second, actually now 6/10 ahead of Daniel Lindblom. So it does mean that Lindblom probably isn't close enough to get past the Ferrari on this lap, unless that a little bit of kicking up of the dirt may have given the Ferrari a much better attack then down the start finish straight, as the yellow flags have come out again, and it's for Dave Spinner?
Max Savchuk.
Or is it Savchuk. So it's Savchuk who's gone off at Villeneuve. It was a bit of a popular corner for a Porsche to go off at in this race, the Multimatic shelled car, and we'll have to see. Yeah, this time just loses the rear end, and it's like a little bit like the Corvette earlier. It spins to the inside of the circuit, turns the car around, and obviously a bit of a large rotation there to try and get back onto the circuit, but Max Savchuk has managed that in the end. Sadly, though, is at the back of the hypercar field, running in 10th position in the class.
Indeed, and Christian Kesey, by the way, who resides in 3rd in the GT3 class, 7.5 seconds off the back of Peter Jelinek. What happened to him? What did we miss, Tom? Obviously, he had a slower pit stop, 10 seconds slower than Tamarenko, 8 seconds slower than Petr Jelinek. Do you think that's where the difference is, or have we missed something critical? I know we saw Tamarenko get past Christian on track, but he's fallen down to 3rd now.
I mean, it's kind of interesting because Kesey, it seemed like there was still a comfortable gap to Jelinek before the pit window, and yeah, now 7 seconds between Kesey and Petr Jelinek. It's a bit of a weird thing to see. It seemed to have the pace coming into this session, and obviously led early on as well. So it's maybe, I don't know. Johnny theorised the 2-stop, but then didn't seem confident on it by the time we'd come to the first set of stops. So potentially Kesey probably on a non-stop. So it's not like they're. Maybe I doubt they're saving, or maybe I doubt they're saving, anticipating that Tamenga and Jelinek will come in again and they'll stay out. But it's an interesting spot because it's rare to see that Kesey struggling for pace.
It is indeed. Let's quickly have a look at the energy. So it's, I don't know, what's that? 70%, 60%. I don't know what that translates to roughly, but I think where Johnny, the 2-stop will work, as we see a Ferrari off. That's actually Jelvin Blomqvist down now to 3rd. Let's have a quick look at that. Obviously, Zach Finney slipping on by in the Toyota has claimed P2. Let's watch that on a replay before I finish the thought about 2-stoppers. Obviously, the Ferrari here of Jelvin Blomqvist coming through the chicane. That does have Lindblom just ahead, who's battling away. The Toyota in the background They go up the inside towards the second chicane. Toyota laps up the slip between the Ferrari and actually just kind of hinders himself, and that's the Ferrari off again, and the Toyota slips on by. So interesting there that the Toyota boxed themselves in. Ferrari got by. Ferrari made a mistake by being too tight, perhaps, and carrying a bit too much speed, and the Toyota got back on through.
And it seemed to just lose the rear end there again as well. We have seen that car just doesn't seem very, or just comfortable at the rear end at all. So it has bit in the end for Elvin Botmas and has cost them the position to Zach Finney. But every time we have seen Finney eventually get past Blomqvist, it has been Blomqvist that's been able to then easily make their way through again. So we'll have to see if Blomqvist is able to replicate what we saw earlier in the race and get an easy move past into Tamburello. Obviously this time it's a little bit too far back to get that done. It's about 5 tenths off of Zach Finney, who's going to be held up a little bit by Yaroshenko there, which does prompt Elvin Botmas to have a little look up the inside into Villeneuve, but obviously realises they're a little bit too far back to get the move done into there. But the gap about 3 tenths. So if Elvin can keep it within that, and actually nice rotation into the mid part of Tosa there, set him up for a really nice exit. It may mean that if he's able to stay within the current distance that he is behind the Toyota now, it could be a potential move up towards Tamburello, if not any earlier, because it does seem like he's itching to get past the Toyota as they come up towards Acquaminerale. Turn the car in now, is looking a lot stronger on the brakes, and maybe just feels a little bit more comfortable now being the hunter instead of hunted up behind the Toyota. So as they come through Alta now, still gap extending slightly up to about 4 tenths there, but you can see visually both of them quite close to one another, and it's all going to really depend on what sort of exit the Ferrari gets from the rats here. So we'll go into the first part, closes up quite a bit, and now it's all going to depend on what sort of drive that Elvin gets out of this second part, as the gap opens up to about 5 tenths though. So I think it may be a little bit too far back for Elvin Blomqvist, because he's not going to really have the slipstream effect here. So as they come down the start finish not so straight and into turn 1, it just seemed that Elvin's just fallen back a little bit too far back to get the move done again, and Zach Finney holds on to second position.
Indeed, and we'll stay there, keeping the pressure on Zach Finney as they get past some more GT3 cars. I've quickly finished that thought about the two-stopper and where its strength will be. I think we're in the closing kind of section of the race, really, maybe the final 20 minutes or so, where the one-stoppers are trying to keep their virtual energy above 0 to avoid a horrible penalty and obviously keep some fuel in the tank. Two-stoppers such as Johnny can keep their foot in it and keep their pace up, and maybe that's where we'll see the biggest difference. If there is one, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. I'm not too familiar with the virtual energy capabilities and the fuel capabilities of the GT3 cars so far. So will be certainly an interesting one. We'll try to keep an eye on it as Elvin Blomqvist gets closer again through Acquaminerale to the Toyota, and obviously runs up the hill again. They seem fairly even, to be fair, on the brakes, but you're right. I think Blomqvist feeling a bit more comfortable as the hunter, as is the way of things a lot of time. You can't help a lot of the time, but look in your mirrors and feel the presence of this another car so close behind you, pressuring you to nail your braking. Blomqvist can be slightly wrong on his brakes, can be slightly too early, whatever, slightly too late, slightly messed up. He's only going to catch up to Zach Finney again. Zach Finney, if he makes a mistake, that's a position lost, potentially.
Yeah, so it's all pressure on Zach Finney to try and keep the Ferrari behind, and actually this may be an opportunity. He is within 2 tenths now, and potentially could look up the inside, potentially into Tamburello. We'll have to see what the F-Corsa car decides to do. It does look to the inside, but actually backed out in the end, just about isn't close enough to send it down the inside of the Toyota in that part of the circuit. So again, it's just going to have to sit a little bit further back, and it's going to have to wait and bide their time. They'll come up towards Villeneuve, and again, it seems the Blomqvist it's still a little bit too far back, and it's closing up for this part of the circuit, because this seems to be where the Ferrari is a little bit stronger. But obviously, isn't an overtaken area of the circuit, so it's going to be there isn't really an opportunity to get through. As we come to the battle between, actually we'll come back to Johnny. Johnny, how's it going?
Yeah, tough. I don't think we're going to make this strategy work as well as I wanted it to, but I'm just going to try and push and try and get into top 10 now. Hopefully, just hope some people run out of fuel, have to stop. I think it's going to be close for a few people, so I'll just look to make up a couple of spots, and if I can finish top 10, I think that'll be fairly decent. But I'm in a good battle with Greg at the minute, so.
Indeed.
It's funny, it looks like you're closing in on Greg, so actually I'm going to leave you to it now because so you can focus on that. And actually we have some yellow flags coming out, and it is for Dmitry Yaroshenko, who seems to be off of the circuit. I couldn't tell quite where that was, just I could see some rumble strips on the outside of the corner, and he's exiting Tozer, so I think it's up towards Piratella here that Yaroshenko's had it must have been a pretty major off to have it off here. I assume it's just broke on the grass. Yes, they have dropped two of the right-hand wheels onto the grass and has spun into the gravel of Piratella and backwards into the wall. Lucky not to lose the rear wing there was Yaroshenko, but luckily rejoins the circuit as they do a little bit of a flip through the floor. This is the net code as Greg Scott and I think Johnny's found his way past Greg, or has Greg had an off? We'll have to see here.
Let's have a look in the replay. This time I'm not muted, so hopefully we can hear me. Yeah, let's watch Prescott lose out to Johnny. Actually, obviously Prescott in the Mustang just up ahead, down onto the brakes through the corner. Obviously, it gets wide. Piratella onto the gravel. Luckily, as you say, it gets onto track, no issues there. And again, luckily the Ferrari didn't lose their wing, as you were saying. Seems to be made of stronger stuff than the McLaren rear wings are, because they just fall off when there's a strong breeze blowing, it seems. Anton Tomarenga, by the way, out of the pits now, on the back of David Leckie. This is not what he wants, is it really? He's had a pit. He's, he doesn't know if Christian Kiesing, Matt Townsend needs to stop. So this is what he wants, to just get going and not, be impeded at all. And he's stuck now behind David Leckie, which is fair enough. It's full position. Anton has decided to stop for whatever reason he needed to. And now he needs to get back past David Leckie as quick as he can, really, if he wants to reclaim the lead of the race.
Yeah, I mean, he really needed a clean part of the circuit, as you were saying, but it's just he really come out in the wrong spot behind David Leckie. Leckie is going to defend his position, quite rightly so, as you say. And this really isn't the news that Anton Tomenga needed. He really just, I can't stress enough, he just needed, he just didn't need this. He needed anything but this, and it is going to slow his lap times down. And if the other two do come in, it's going to screw them over a little bit, because every lap they stay behind David Leckie, stay at David Leckie's pace, it does mean that the gap's going to be opening up to the leading couple of cars, as we've also seen Petr Jelinek, I believe, come in for a stop as well, as I've seen them no longer leading in, or actually maybe it's my time screen hasn't updated. I can see them no longer up near the front of the
You're right, they have two stops.
Class.
Yeah, down to 6th in class. 31 second stop, so 10 seconds slower than Tomarenga's stop. So he's now obviously behind Tomarenga. Well, he was behind him before, but deeper behind Tomarenga than that stop. So again, another one. You don't know if Tomarenga's short-filled, lower the V8, lower fuel, lower short stop times, and then plans on lifting and coasting. But he can't lift and coast if he's stuck behind Dave Selecki, who might be going to the end. We don't know, obviously. Zach Finney here behind Elvin Blomqvist, obviously still battling away, getting closer and closer. Let's have a look at their Vertex Energy to see who's maybe got more options, more to play with. If I can find the right button, here we go. Zach Finney 45, Blomqvist 44, so pretty even, to be fair, no issues there.
So yeah, both running similar compared to last year, where Finney had a little bit more, as Angela Scott trying to find a way past Nick Manners. This would be for 5th position, and after the start they had, Angela Scott going for their favourite move again, trying to send it all the way around the outside at Tosa, but Nick Manners a little bit more head screwed on there to make sure that Angela couldn't make that work around the outside. And well, again, I'm surprised Angela is able to manage the tyres as well as they do, because I've seen a lot of lockups heading into Toaster for them, but it seems like they're not struggling on tyres at all, and are still able to battle with Nick Mandis as they come through Ak Minerali now. Takes a lot more curb and actually runs across a little bit of the gravel there with their left front tyre. As they were just took a little bit too much curb, so it forced them onto that part of the circuit as they come through Brante Alta. Now there is a Corvette heading up ahead of these two, but luckily they've made just at the exit of Brante Alta, so it does mean that the Corvette's got out of the way and hasn't really compromised either one of them as they come now up towards the end of this lap. The gap's about just half a second, so compared to what we've seen the effect of the slipstream so far in this race, it does seem like Angela's just a little bit too far back to, well, at least go for a move into this next part of the circuit. It'd have to be a send and a half if they were going to get it through into Tamburello, but maybe if they get a decent run through there, could set something up for Villeneuve or Tosa, as we've seen them do in earlier on in this race. As we come back to Zach Finney and Elvin Blomqvist, and this is quite close, and if Finney can just get a decent run out of the Ravazza, this could be an opportunity for them down the back straight. He's kept it within 4 attempts of the Ferrari may have just lost a little bit of speed hanging on to the straight there, and they have, and actually the gap extending as they come across the start-finish line. So it does mean that poor Zach Finney, even though they've been able to close up over this lap, it does mean they are a little bit too far back to get them, or at least try and move into the first corner. But that's deep into there for Evan Brothers. That's going to present an opportunity to Zach Finney. Zach Finney around the outside of the last part of Tamburello. They're going to run side by side now up towards Villeneuve. Villeneuve is going to have the inside. Well, Evan Brothers is going to have the inside. Villeneuve has done the same mistake again and spun it off into the second part. Villeneuve does a full, nearly a full 360, spins right back onto the circuit out of the second part of the Villeneuve kind of chicane part of the circuit. Has come right back on in front of the BMW there, but it does look like that Elvin Broadquist at this stage of the race has handed second place to Zach Finney.
Indeed, unbelievable there. Again, same error issue as earlier on, losing the spinning round. Not only really put him out of the battle with Zach Finney, but now really shot his tyres up. So not good at all. Dave Zalecki right on the back of Anna Tomenga, obviously, as Tomenga's gotten past at last, but Dave Zalecki rightly wants that position back and is going to try and get it back with all his might. Athol Baskar 6/10 away from Matt Townsend, similarly for the top two now of the GT3 field, and we've also got Angela Scotti, as we saw earlier, on the back of Nick Manders, within a couple of tenths now, with a nice little run here as they run up towards, let's see, the next chicane, obviously, flick it in nicely, Porsche on Porsche, looking fairly even. Angela Scotti taking a bit more of the curb at the Villeneuve chicane, obviously through towards Tosa. Now we've seen Scotty how strong they are through this corner. Let's see if they can get a nice run, make use of the GT3 car ahead as well as they head up towards the hill, towards Piratella even. Flick it in, keep it tidy. 22 minutes to go, and it's going to be nothing but pressure for Nick Manders with Scotty behind in their rear view mirror. Oh, just look to the inside briefly to Scotty there. Obviously not a place to get it done. Another Ferrari 2963 car to deal with. A snap there from Nick Manders, giving another one as well, giving Scotty excellent opportunity to get past, and indeed does, side by side as well, getting past the T3 car onto the brakes through the chicane without any issue whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Manders there as well. I think that just put Scotty off in the end, because they it just banged wheels as Manders had a massive tank slapper on as they came up towards Rante Alta, and it well, yeah, very lucky for Manders to stay in position. And actually, I think he's going to lose that position now, because he's had a massive lock-up into the first part from Ratza. Now as they come back onto the start-finish straight under the Motul advertising board, it does look like Scott, it doesn't seem like they're close enough actually to take too much advantage of that slipstream. He's staying around the 3/10 mark, is closing in ever so much. It's probably going to have to try and pressure Manders into a mistake. Manders brakes quite late, but is able to keep the car on the circuit. Angela's got a better run through this part of the circuit, though. Just seems to have got a much better flow in the line they've taken through there. So as they head up towards Villeneuve again, so close is the Porsche, and oh gosh, nearly brake checked into the second part of Villeneuve. And actually, Angela Scott going to try and send it around the outside again of Manders, knocks up that front left again into that part of the circuit. Going to run side by side, a little bit of a wavy rear end, and that's enough for Angela Scott to say very, very much. I'm going to power through up the straight, up towards Piratella, and send it around, actually not even around the outside, it has the move done by Piratella, and through and up into the top 5. But Nick Manders is still there, up towards Acca Minerale. He's looking to the inside, has to brake a little bit earlier to avoid the rear of the other Porsche running up ahead, and I think that's going to be it for Manders, as the gap is slowly opening up. They'll come up into Varante Alta here. Manders not looking to give this up without a fight now, as there is some traffic cars up ahead, but I think they're just about going to move out of the way for Angela over this lap. And actually, as they now start their descent down the hill up towards the Ravazza, it does seem like Angela's got the move done.
Indeed, yeah. Once Nick had that issue, your tyres, they're not going to recover magically. You're going to have to deal with that through every corner, through every braking zone, and it just makes it even more easy to make a mistake and make a lock up. And it might cost Nick more time. Ultimately, big picture, if he tried to defend too hard, and Scotty got past regardless of the way. So up to P5 now for Scotty, up 2 places since the start. Obviously having an issue earlier on, but recovered very nicely has Scotty. So doing a very good job in this race. 19 minutes to go, so under 20 minutes now. So final stretch for these drivers. Let's have a look. There's not much going on in the GT3 field. Everyone's kind of settled down. I think, re-evaluating their fuel energy, I'm sure, thinking about how much they need to get to the end. We might see a final charge when, they get closer and go, okay, there's 3 laps left, 5 laps left, whatever. I've definitely got enough energy, I can start pushing again. But for now, I think they're kind of fairly settled. We've got the closest battle is actually Athol Baskar 1 and a bit seconds away from Matt Townsend up in P2. We've got a mix of 2-stoppers and 1-stoppers in the field, Tom. The top 5 in the GT3 class, all 1-stopper. We've got Petty, like we saw, stop twice. Fuskin stopped twice. Obviously, Ashley and Yaroshenko and Ralph Fest. Petyanlek, by the way, speaking of the devil, outside of Tulsa, has an issue facing the wrong way and is now looping around in the gravel trying to get going again.
Yeah, as Elvin Blomqvist just come past him there. And let's see what's happened here to Petyanlek, heading up towards Tosa by looks of it, on the exit of Tosa. There's one of the Alpines, that's Jake behind, the sole Alpine still remaining in this race. Goes to the outside of Petter on the inside of the corner, and Bosch into the front right of the Alpine and spins it. Nearly just collects that Finney.
Indeed, that's interesting. We've seen that before, you know, with Charlie Morgan, I believe, just clipping off the GTs. Maybe it's not understanding spatially how big the hypercars are and, you know, how much space the GT3 cars need. Either way, Petyanlek has got going again, now in P6, so behind Dave Selecki, unless he was already there, and I can't quite remember. But either way, in P6 now, that's very unfortunate. Luckily, you know, it's not earlier on in the race when everyone was still closer together, so hasn't lost out too much, really. Nick Manders, by the way, still tenths away from Anderson Scotty with a mega run, it looked like, coming out of Villeneuve through Tossa. Another little lock up there for Scotty in the braking zone, and maybe, as you said, it's easier to hunt hypercars down than it is to be the hunted.
Yeah, I mean, as well, we've seen a lot of lockups in this race from Angela as well, so it could be the fact that as another car runs off the circuit there, I think it's Greg Prescott, as both these hypercars, and this is not good for Angela Scott, and Greg Prescott, good driving to move off the racing line there to let Scotty through, so it does mean that Nick Manders doesn't gain as much as they probably would have there, but we have seen a lot of lockups from Scotty, so I don't know if that means how much that is taking out the tyres and all, but that's actually going to end that battle though, because Nick Manders runs across the grab on the exit of Rante Alta there, just gets a huge snap at the rear end, has to try and correct it, and that sends them straight through the gravel trap. We're right on board with him now. I'll let you explain this, Sam.
Yeah, obviously running the hill, get the power down as smoothly and as quickly as you can. Move over to the left for the chicane. Let's see what happens when he gets onto the brakes. Open up the corner, turn in to the right now on the power. Just asking a bit too much. Obviously the grip got away from the tyres earlier on the race, and Nick just expecting that same standard of grip throughout the race. Obviously that wasn't the case. Luckily he was able to catch it and didn't become a lot more of an incident. But certainly I think a wake-up call for Nick there. Maybe the tyres aren't as good as he thinks they are, and he can't lean on them as much. We see there again another issue there going through between the chicanes. The tyres are going to be hotter, you know, he's worn away the surface, they're not going to be as good as they were, and he'll need to adjust his braking, you know, his speed, how much he asks of the tyres throughout the corner.
Yeah, and it does seem to have put a cold glass on this fiery battle between Scotty and Manders. Now 2.5 seconds is the gap between them, as Atal Baskar currently a 1.9 second gap between himself and Matt Townsend in the battle for second place in the GT3 standings. It's it's kind of everything's kind of quieting down. There's a lot of gaps between everyone. Maybe it's a good time to, Johnny, how's it all going for you?
Slowly. Not doing great with the tyres. My tyres are pretty sharp. I think I pushed them too hard in the early start of the race. Just cutting up my lap time going, but looking at the Virgin Energy, I think there might be one or two that have to pit, so it's going to be certainly tight. But I'm in the top 10. Anything now is a bonus.
You're in the top 10, and actually, you have the fastest Sector 1 and Sector 2 highest KPH achieved. So you've got that little award for you, I suppose. I haven't looked at Sector 3, but I'd imagine... Oh no, we'll ignore Sector 3. But Sector 1, Sector 2, you're the quickest.
That's always nice to know.
You can set that review into the remainder of this race, and we'll leave you to it, but I hope you find someone to battle soon, as it might get a little bit lonely on the track at the moment, as there is a lot of there's quite a lot of there's quite a lot of nothing happening on circuit at the moment. There's a lot of gaps between everyone. As we said, I think Baskar is the closest battle, and that's nearly 2 seconds between them. As Sam, we've brought up the energy, or the NRG, on the screen, and as we can see, Finney, Evans has used quite a bit more than everyone else, but it potentially doesn't particularly matter at this point in the race. And the lowest hypercar is Watson, who has 16% to go in the race.
Indeed, yeah, and that's dropping quickly. I think it's something like 3% a lap, maybe. I'm trying to quickly remember. 13 minutes to go. What is it, a lap? 1 minute 30. So we'll call it, oh, it's a bit more than that, but we'll call it 9 seconds to make it easier. 3, 12, 4. 8. It's going to be close. I think they've got enough at even 15%. They might have to do a bit of lifting and coasting the final lap, but that's enough. Interesting that Cowley has, less, but then had a substantially greater pit stop. Does the Peugeot just use more, or has something gone really wrong for Cowley then? That's bizarre almost.
Yeah, because it has, because quite a lot more used than everyone else, and he's made quite a bit of an inroad though towards Elvin Blomqvist, but I assume that's because it was 33-second gap last time I looked, now 26, but I assume that's just because of Elvin's offs in this session. And actually with Elvin's off, you'd probably expect the gap to come down a bit more than it has. And yeah, it's just I don't know, maybe this just isn't a suitable circuit for the Peugeot, or maybe it just I don't know.
No, it's a good question. Last lap, 1.8 seconds slower was Cowley than Blomqvist. Even with Blomqvist's lesser tyres, shall we say. So it is an interesting one. We'll have to keep an eye on it as the time draws down, as the clock draws down. Some GT3 is still not blinking, and it seems like, they're probably trying to go to the end now and commit to this one stop. And let's have a look then. Let's see who's got the closest battle. I thought Baskar's 1.5 seconds away from Matt Townsend. Let's have a look at their virtual energy with the onboard HUD, because that's the only info we can get. Orange, whatever that means. So I think that's enough, I'm guessing. I don't know what that translates to, as I said. But it looks like they've got enough for 11.5 minutes, I'd say. So probably won't be too conservative. And we'll just be pushing ahead now to chase Matt Townsend, who they were 7/10 even quicker at last lap in the BMW as Athol Baskar. So certainly has some pace to catch Matt Townsend. Obviously, Christian Kiesig, 25 seconds up the road, no chance. Maybe unless Kiesig has an issue. Similarly, Alfie Bevan has said, mega in anything you put him in, 18 seconds up the road. So really, it's only P2 in the classes that are up for grabs at this point.
And it's easier to catch up to Matt Townsend than past Matt Townsend, as we've seen in this race so far. It had a lot of defensive masterclasses in this race. And it's just meant that we saw how many laps they were holding on second earlier on in this race in some of their battles. So it's going to be much easier said than done to try and get past that Inception Racing McLaren if Baskar is able to catch up. But it has got to within a second now, actually 0.7 into the braking zone off of the McLaren, as we've seen James Cowley come through past these guys. But it's going to be one thing catching him, it's going to be another thing to overtake, especially in that large boy BMW as well. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge, but it does seem to have a major pace advantage, but it's just that McLaren can be very wide. So actually, as we lose light now going into the later stages of this race, as the lights start to come ever more prevalent, as we see Tom Watson just onto the rear of these guys. As the yellow flag come out, it's Yaroshenko again has had an off. I think that might be at the same corner as well, or is it Ravatsa?
Ravatsa.
Oh, it is. No, it's not Ravatsa. It's Piratella again. For we saw them go off there earlier. I assume was broke on the grass on their front right tyres again, and that spun them into the gravel shop again, a similar accident to what they had earlier on in this race. So that's dropped them back in the field and actually well, yeah, just add salts to the wound of their earlier incident.
Down to P12, and yeah, I was muted, so I'll repeat what I was saying again. You're right, it is so much harder to get past someone than just capping up to them, especially here at Imola. You know, it's easier to defend. You know, even if you've got the car behind you, it's a lot quicker. Sure, there's going to be a lot of pressure, but if you can just keep the car in the right place when you need to, you know, it makes all the difference to help you defend a bit more. Getting closer and closer, by the way, is Athabascar to Matt Townsend as they round Tosa, I believe, up the hill now towards Piratella. Obviously, just keeping that pressure on McLaren, waiting for them to make a mistake. And if not, you know, maybe they can compromise the lines of McLaren by just putting their car in the right place, attacking them at the right times, you know, without themselves being compromised. And able to see what they can do with that. 8 minutes to go. The clock will be ticking down. The drivers will be seeing that as the laps tick away, and they'll know that they're running out of chances, out of opportunities to get the job done and to get a final position and the final minutes of the race then.
And that could make it quite interesting, because that's when people start to get a little bit itchy under the collar, try and go for moves they usually wouldn't go for, and it could result in a little bit of bumping and rubbing his racing type of stuff, as these guys, well, the gap actually opening up a little bit. It's now a second between Bathgar and Townsend.
Indeed, yeah, there's a bit of you know, push and pull. Certainly the gap has seemed to grow. They go to the start-finish straight now, and obviously into the slipstream again. The BMW will catch up with its supreme speed, it seems. 2 kph quicker, by the way, is this BMW Athabascar than Athabascar through the speed trap, it seems. Obviously through the little kick, which is technically turn 1, I think, up towards turn 2. Here onto the brakes, opening up the corner nicely is the BMW of Athabascar. Flick it in, obviously get your foot on it as soon as you can without running too wide. Keep your foot pinned all through this little kink, heading towards the second chicane. Gap, yeah, it's not closed up too much. It has closed a little bit, obviously, since the start finish straight. I think this is the way it seems. The BMW catches up through the first sector, obviously faster on the straights, but the McLaren able to pull out enough of a gap where they don't need to worry about defending and compromise themselves too much and losing out speed. Once they're, you know, in that position where the BMW is really challenging the McLaren has to defend, it's kind of almost over, because they've compromised them so much, particularly if they get it wrong through the final couple of corners. But the BMW will have so much more over speed and can get past that way. But we'll continue to watch this battle on track as well. Let's go on board, shall we? Through great complex of Aqua Minerale up the hill now, getting the power on into the slipstream, and the McLaren follow him over to the left. Spot your braking point for the chicane, open up onto the curb on the left if you can. And we see a jink of the steering wheel from Athol, just try and open up the chicane, make it a bit easier to carry a bit more speed again onto the power, straight line, avoid the gravel, shortcutting this by going straight line here. The McLaren pulling out of the slipstream to try and, you know, have some advantage. They go through this kink onto the brakes as soon as you get the car straightened up. Hover the car in. It's a bit of a weird balance here on the brakes and on the throttle here. A bit of a snap for the McLaren ahead. Again, final corner crucial. Open it up, carry as much speed as you can. And we see the gap now under 5/10 in the slipstream. The McLaren, the BMW is going to be pulling closer and closer as they come towards the start-finish line for another lap of Imola.
Yeah, and well, that's another lap less for Athabascar to try and find their way through and past the Inception Racing McLaren, and well, it is closing the gap in. It's just dipped between under 4/10 of a second there between them, but just still isn't close enough. Has the Porsches coming through behind as well, so may hope that they run the McLaren off the line a little bit to try and present an opportunity to the BMW. Here comes Angela Scott to try and go through. We'll dive up the inside into Tosa past one LMGT3 car, nearly collects the other LMGT3 car, which would have been a huge favour for Athabascar, but luckily just avoids contact between the pair of them. So both Porsches should be out of the way by Piratella now as they make their way past, as that is Manda still within a second of Angela Scott in this latter stage of this race. Less than 5 minutes to go of this race after nearly now an hour and 40 minutes in this one, as well, light really is fading now, and you can see nearly falling to dusk here at the circuit as we'll come into the brain zone again as yellow flags are out again as Bascar right tucked into the rear of the McLaren, and it's a car off. It is, I think it's Max Savchuk. Yep. Yes, it is. Thank you for confirming. So Savchuk has obviously had a little bit of a spin on the exit of Tosa there, and we come to this battle between Petyanek and Dave Shalecki. This is currently for, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th place in the hypercar class, the wrong class, LMGT3 class. And it looks like Dave's actually fallen back a little bit from Petter at this point, so that's going to nullify that battle a little bit. We'll come back to start finish straight. Bascar, again, still not close enough to try and get that move done on Matt Townsend. They'll come up towards the braking zone, but finds themselves still a little bit too far back. But the McLaren is going to have to put up with a hypercar in front of it, which is going to slow up its speed through Tamburello. So this could present an opportunity up towards Villeneuve if Bascar is feeling confident, but I think the McLaren and Matt Townsend's aware of it, so he's going to force Bascar to the outside. Bascar's going to try and go for the switchback on the exit of Villeneuve. Gets a better run. He's going to dart to the outside up towards Tosa. They'll jump on the brakes now. There's a hypercar trying to go down the inside. It's going to be blocked off as both these guys run side by side, and actually the hypercar in the end blocks the BMW going for the switchback, and that means that Matt Townsend is going to be able to hold on to that second position for at least a little bit longer, with just over 3 minutes now to go in this race. The McLaren was a little bit wide through there, and as they come up to that Comunale as well, the BMW is closing in again. They'll jump onto the brakes, turn the car in, and much tighter run through that part of the circuit for Atal Bascar, and actually this is going to put him in overtaking proximity up towards Rante Alto, and he's going to think about it. He's going to look to the inside, a little bit of a fakey of a move there as he returns back to the racing line, and actually I think that puts him offline because he hooked his front right rear on that sausage curve, and it actually dragged him out wide on approach to the second part of the Rante Alto chicane there, and actually that's dropped him back a little bit to just about 5/10 coming into the Ravazza, and it does mean that it probably is going to cost the BMW another slipstreaming opportunity, an overtake opportunity into Tamburello as the yellow flags have come out again on circuit. A lot happening in this latter stage of the race as we come through the start finish straight, and it seems Ralph Best has looped it and just about doesn't get collected by one of the Porsches there. Okay. And actually also another car off as well, and I think, is that you, Johnny? Alfie Bevan.
Yeah, the leader of the race. When this replay wants to load, we'll have a look what happened. Obviously in his Ferrari? Is Alfie in a Ferrari? Am I confused where they get over Alpine? Yeah, he is, right, okay, wait, it's coming through. Here's a BMW, he gets past. Oh, and it just collects him through the kick there between the chicanes. Big hit into the wall for the BMW. And I think, yeah, you did ask, is that Johnny? Is that Johnny?
It is.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, it's from Alfie, really. He didn't need to, and my car's just broken now.
And yeah, no, that's going as you witnessed you go off again. Yeah, and unluckily, yeah, rear end, obviously the rear wing gone, and yeah, a little bit clumsy by Alfie there in the end. And I think in the end hasn't really cost Alfie any positions. Lucky enough for Alfie. 6 seconds still separates himself and Irvin Rockfist, but yeah, just a little bit clumsy by Alfie there, and was near the end of the race, and just didn't leave enough room for poor Johnny in the end, and there's yeah, just caused an incident that probably didn't need to happen, as James Cowley in 6th position will come to, but actually no, we'll come to Matt Townsend and Atal Bascar, and it seems that Bascar has made their way past Matt Townsend, who has actually come into the pit lane. So obviously Townsend needs to come in for one more stop, but a splash and dash, so that is actually going to drop them out of the podium positions. It's going to put Temenga back up into 3rd place in the class, and actually, what have I got that? Yeah, no, it is Temenga back into 3rd place in class for the Mustang. So that is going to theoretically secure them the result there, and yeah, so I think that's about it for that battle on circuit. You see a spliffer of 1 and 2 stops as Townsend and Yaroshenko, actually I think that said, coming into the pit box as Petyanek comes through to move up into 4th position, and yeah, the clock's hit 0, so I think most of these battles we're going to have to see if anyone's going to get through in the latter stages of this race, but I think everyone else is pretty much separated out. Petyanek, 17-second gap between him and Tyler Hammer at this point, and Hammer's quite far down the road, and it seems, and 25-second gap actually to Temenga as well. So this seems to be where Petty Jelinek is going to finish this race, and probably without the spin could have been a little bit closer to a podium spot, but I suppose it is what it is in the end for them. Blomqvist actually closing in a bit on Bevan. Actually, the gap dropping within 5 seconds now. Actually dropping quite a bit. Is Alfie had another off? Was he crossed the line? He's
driving
crossed the
slowly.
line.
Oh, he's crossed the line.
No,
that would make sense.
He's crossed the line, yeah. So that's the end. I assume that's the end of the race for them. And yeah, it is. So Alfie Bevans comes home, first back-to-back winner of the season, to win round 4 of the oNiD Sim Hound LMU 100 series, powered by Coach Dave Academy. We could see Dave Sprinter come across the line now to finish in 9th position. Max Savchuk will come home in 10th place at the end of this race as the circuit turns to its nighttime stages. Decent result for Splinter as well. One of the few pushes we actually have seen off in the walls here today, though, as he kind of drifts through the final corners. A little bit of a celebration, and actually, has spun off into the wall. So Christian Kiesig is, in the end, much like his ACC series, is going to come home, and actually, I think for this class as well, he's going to be the first person to win 2 races to make it another non-new winner in this class. So as long as he doesn't throw it off into the Ravazza now, I've just said that, but no, is onto the brakes now, turns the car in, and it seems pretty settled. It doesn't seem like it's going to blow up, it doesn't seem like he's going to spin. So out of the final corner now, onto the power, back onto the start finish straight, and up towards start finish line. It is round 4 in the LMGT3 class is going to go the way of Christian Kiesig. He wins round 4 in the GT3 class, and well, what a result for them, making the strategy work at one stage when we even questioned them, but we obviously know not to question his strategies, because well, Kiesig seems to just be the master of making these if it's a strategy-based race, it's normally Kiesig that wins it. So a good result for them. Baskar comes home in 2nd, and Temenga has already come home in 3rd in the LM GT3 class. And that will close us out here for round 4 at Imola.
Indeed. Let's I find the button. The results aren't quite ready, but yeah, great race. Imola, fantastic circuit. We've seen a good mix of battles, actually. Lindblom, by the way, up 7 places since the start, so he was the biggest gainer, not only in the GT3 field, but in the entire race, obviously including the hypercar field. So great job there, and thank you indeed for following us, Rob_Franzen. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I certainly did. Tom, how did you feel about that race?
Yeah, I think it was a good race. I think obviously we had in the hypercar class, but Alfie kind of just took off in the lead, but luckily we had a really nice fight between Elvin Blomqvist, as we have the time screen coming up there. Alfie finishing in 1st, followed by Elvin Blomqvist in 2nd, and Zach in 3rd. But Zach and Elvin, I was just about to mention, gave us a nice race throughout. We obviously as well had some nice battles with Matt Townsend as well. Obviously some really good defensive driving from himself. Angela Scott coming back up through the field. Actually a really nice result in the end to finish 4th. And well, it's a decent result for them, because it's a third, 4th now for them over this championship. So very consistent, considering they were off backwards at the start of this race as well. And obviously we saw a bit of carnage as well throughout the race, with a few little mistakes from obviously at this corner we're looking at now, Peritella. We saw Yaroshenko having a bit of an off here, and Greg Prescott running through the gravel here, and obviously we saw some few issues through Villeneuve as well, with some cars spinning off in the second half of that corner. So yeah, there's always been something to keep an eye on, and it's been a pretty competitive, fast and action-packed race. Yeah,
it's been great. That's the top 10 for the hypercar field. Really, it wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be, to be honest. We did see a lot of battles as well, which I wasn't expecting, to be honest. I thought there'd be a lot of, a train and people just, going in the pits and then coming out in different positions. That'd be it. But it was great to see so many battles, and actually great to see, for the most part, a lot of respect given between the hypercars and the GT3 cars, which is always a pleasure to watch. Christian Kiesig obviously lapping the rest of the field there. We saw him finish pretty much last in terms of crossing the line, but first, obviously, in the order of the GT3 cars there, Ato Baskar, Anton Temenga. These two have had some really interesting races, I think. They've been kind of up and down the order. Obviously, Anton pitting and losing really out on the lead of the race, unfortunately. Petty Jelinek, a great job from them. 4th there in the Aston Martin. Tyler Hammer, makes it, by the way, 5 manufacturers in the top 5 of the GT3 field. Obviously, Daniel Lindblom, a very good result from them. Townsend, Selecki, Fuskin, and Prescott round at the top 10. But yeah, what a mix of performances from manufacturers as well.
And that's what's great to see, because obviously, well, that's what you want. You want a nice variety of cars at the top of the field, and that's exactly what we got in that race. So we obviously, the McLaren were in it as well. Matt Townsend was at the sharp end of the field before having to come in right at the end there for a splash and dash. So it's what you want to see. You want to see a majority of different cars all running together.
Hello, gang.
Indeed. And speaking
Hello.
of the devil, welcome,
I
Daniel.
feel
You're
I
actually on
have
stream.
robbed them.
Sorry?
I feel I have robbed some people of their places.
Possibly. I mean, you were up 7 places from the start. I don't know if you know you are on the Twitch stream still, by the way. But yeah, great result. How did you find that, Dan? We got another driver from the race, which is always great. We don't usually have this.
I have no idea. Okay. Yeah, sorry.
So how was the race for you? How did you gain so many positions?
Oh, see, I essentially did my first lap in quali, and just stayed out of trouble. Essentially the whole thing. And then come the last lap, I had fuel saved, so I would make it the whole way with like 0.1 lap of fuel left. Just that there was one extra lap.
Oh.
I even let Kiesig by, hoping that I would skip that last lap 56. But no, the car sent me around. I got my SG100, it turns out.
Of course.
But the cars behind apparently got to finish their race when they crossed the line a couple seconds later. I think I kept 6th. Otherwise, I would have dropped to like 9th.
Looks like it. Yeah, that's interesting. Obviously, we did see a mix of 1-stop and 2-stop strategies. But yeah, great stuff. I think we'll quickly finish off the stream. We've also got Jacob joining us. I don't know if you want to say anything or if you're just here to chatter afterwards.
Okay. It was just a really tense race.
Yeah, cool.
Had fun with the fuel saving, to be honest.
Yeah, great stuff.
Wait, what's it like to drive the Alpine? Are you enjoying that?
It's an interesting car. It wasn't great at Le Mans, but it worked a lot better around this track. It's really not good in a straight line, but with a bit more. I like it. Other opinions may vary.
Yeah, no, but you did look strong today. You looked a lot, as you said, you looked a lot more comfortable in the car than it did at Le Mans. And yeah, but yeah, I think as Sam said, I think that's where we're going to leave today's stream. Is there anything else you want to add, Sam?
No, that's it. Obviously, thank you for joining us. Thank you for following. Thank you for joining us in chat, etc.
Should we say where we are next time, just before we go?
Where are we next time? Is Johnny still here?
I think we're at Qatar.
We are.
Right?
We're at the new track that comes out in 2 days' time. We are at Qatar next Sunday.
Excellent. With the whole new time model, etc., and some new features, so be really good. I'm sure a lot of drivers are looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, we'll see everyone next week with a new track, a new time model, and yeah, continuation of this series. And I think we'll say goodnight then. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you next week. And yeah, I'll leave you with Tom. Anything?
No, I've not got anything to add. Yeah, same time, same place next week with some new bits and pieces. So I would say hopefully that'll mix up the racing. But apparently Alfieri installed this track just not too long before this race. So we'll have to see what that actually does. But yeah, no, we'll see you next week.
Indeed. We'll see you then. Goodbye.